convicted between 2013 and 2019. He pleaded guilty and was convicted on all charges. The sentence are set to run concurrently. And lastly, looking further afield, Kenya's President William Ruto has issued a stern warning to protesters who've set part of the parliament complex ablaze. Protests escalated into violence yesterday when police opened fire on demonstrators trying to storm Kenya's parliament, with at least 5 protesters killed and dozens wounded. Fire also broke out in Nairobi City Hall. Ruto has described the violence as unprecedented and an attack on the country's democracy and said the protest has been hijacked.
It is very painful for Kenya that a conversation this crucial was hijacked by dangerous people who have caused us the kind of loss we have incurred. I assure the nation of the government's determination to fulfill its constitutional duty of protecting the people of Kenya against all forms of harm.
Recapping the top story at 6, the National Department of Health has confirmed another death related to the Mpox virus, bringing the total number of deaths to 3. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour. For SFM News, I'm Eva Chipa.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. The Proteas are gearing up to face Afghanistan in a thrilling T20 World Cup semi-final tomorrow. We'll hear from the Afghan coach, Jonathan Trott. And in rugby, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus names a strong 39-man squad for the upcoming series against Ireland. All these stories and more just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, here's the top story. A truck crash opposite the airport in Joburg. It's the R21 going north. The truck came from the southbound side, went through the barriers and then across the R21 northbound. It lost its load on the highway and then crashed and sort of stopped on the off-ramp to Fort Trekker Road. So the R21 north opposite the airport has 2 lanes closed for recovery of the lost load, and the off-ramp, the R21 north off-ramp to Fort Trekker Road is currently closed. So you'll have to select an alternative ramp there. Also, I understand there's just been a crash behind that on the R21 north, just around the R24, so it looks like a busy morning out that side. Good news from Durban, the M4 clear of any roadworks this morning, no crashes either. The M4 as you come up from Kongela and Umbilo into the CBD area looking good, and Cape Town Shepherd's Peak Drive remaining closed, hopefully opening today or tomorrow. They did say midweek. That is as a result of rockfalls last week and the catch fence repairs that continue into this week. So Chappie staying closed. Okapsevek, the alternative route on and off the South Peninsula. I'm Rob Byrne. SAFM Sunrise starts now.
SAFM Sunrise, a vivid start to your day.
6 minutes after 6, good morning, welcome to SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Nice to have you along with us this morning. Plenty going on as always, and still of course so many questions about what is happening and so far what isn't happened, and I suppose become a little bit of a tradition over the last, dare I say it, week. We still have no cabinet. We still don't know who's going to be the minister of this and who's going to be the minister of that. There's very little emerging, actually. I mean, there's 1 or 2 little bits, but very little sort of emerging around, these negotiations between the various political parties. We kind of know 1 or 2 things have been happening. And I wonder, the quieter the negotiations get, maybe the more progress is being made. I mean, maybe. You heard Vincent Mcgwenny yesterday, the presidency spokesperson, talking about how government is still running, how government works without ministers. But we do need ministers. People do have to make decisions and things like that. So it's very interesting just to sort of watch this play out. But it seems to me, for the moment, that maybe things are getting a little closer to some kind of deal, and I say that just because it's sort of been quite quiet on the kind of coalition cabinet front. I'll tell you where it wasn't quiet yesterday in Parliament, the National Assembly, the swearing in of the 58 MK MPs and Zizi Kodwa. I'll get to him in just a moment, but first, of course, Dr. John Hlophe, the now Chief Whip, the leader of the MK caucus in the National Assembly. Very interesting to see him being sworn in. Des van Rooyen as well, Finance Minister for 4 days, you'll remember. He was wearing military fatigues yesterday. And Julian Assange used to be leader of the Black First, Land First movement. I remember, in fact, former President Jacob Zuma attending a BLF meeting while leader of the ANC back in 2017. Quite a strange moment that was. And Julian Assange, of course, took money from Bell Pottinger, the British a PR agency. Do you remember that? All of that happening at that time, all very involved with the Guptas. He said he had taken money from the Guptas. And then Duduzile Zuma Zambudla, also an MP for Mkhonto weSizwe, former President Jacob Zuma's daughter. John Tlhophe, I thought, was very interesting. He was talking about, he says, look, this doesn't mean that they accept the outcome of the election. Still no evidence that I've seen that's been put in any forum by Mkhonto weSizwe to say that there were problems with the election results or evidence of wrongdoing there. He also went on to say that for them, the big issue is land, that the land belongs to the nation. He said there can be no private ownership of land in Africa. And I don't know how much support that idea has. I mean, a large amount of our country, you don't have private ownership at all. It's communal ownership. Think of the Ngonyama Trust. Think of parts of the Eastern Cape, the many other parts, the north of the country too. I think only the Western Cape has no communal land, actually. I'd need to check that, but I think that might be the case. But just interesting, the whole issue of land and what kind of ownership we want. And you may remember that the ANC and the EFF at one point agreed on the expropriation of land without compensation and then disagreed on the issue of land title or nationalisation. The EFF wanted to nationalise land. MK seems to also, of course, head that way. And I think people who own land might want to hang on to it. And I mean, it might be whoever you are, to sort of hang on to land. It's very interesting to look at all of these issues. But John Tlhophe, being sworn in, said there would be an opposition, a proper opposition, not disruptive, but would be firm. Wouldn't be sort of pushed around. I thought that was quite interesting. And then also Zizi Kodwa, former Minister for Sport. And I find this very interesting because he stepped aside under the ANC step-aside rule just before the election from all of his positions. And that was because he faces a charge of corruption. 1.6 million rand he received, I think it was to pay for a Jeep. And he received it from a person who worked for EOH, the software company. At the time, the company's changed quite dramatically since then. Jahan McKay was the person's name who gave him the money. Now, Kodwa still faces the charges, didn't answer questions yesterday about why he was being sworn in, said the ANC would have to answer them. And I remember we spoke to Mahlengi Bengumotsiri, the national spokesperson of the ANC, and I remember using the phrase to her, I think we're reading tea leaves here, but she seemed to indicate that perhaps Kodwa would not be sworn in. Well, he was sworn in the end. And that's sort of despite the ANC's step-aside rule. In KwaZulu-Natal yesterday, the Premier, Tami Ntuli, he's from the IFP. He was in Otongati looking at the damage caused by that tornado 3 weeks ago. Now, he said that fixing the area, repairing the area, would be a major part, would be the major priority, and basically trying to deal with the sort of, the wreckage of that time. Very, very difficult situation in Otongati as a result of that tornado. And interesting to see the sort of provinces beginning to move. Still, of course, no cabinet in Gauteng, I should just point out. And then Mpox, another person passing away, losing their life due to Mpox in South Africa yesterday. 16 cases confirmed. And as you know, it's really very close personal contact, which is how this disease is actually spread. Around the world now, there have been 98,000 cases and 200 deaths in 117 countries. So the fact that we've had 3 of those deaths may be significant. Anyway, it's very different to COVID, not nearly as infectious, but certainly something for people to worry about. And then the other issue that came up yesterday, and something that we talk about again and again and again, is jobs. And in the formal sector, according to Stats SA, we lost 67,000 jobs in the formal sector yesterday. So that, of course, again, bad news. And just a reminder to all of the people who make the decisions in government of how important it is to sort of create the enabling environment for the economy and for jobs. Again, nothing more important than that. So quite a lot to look at this morning, I think, and still just waiting to see when we'll get that sort of statement from the presidency that he will make an announcement at a certain time. And that will probably tell us when Cabinet will actually come in. Maybe it'll be this evening, who knows. These things used to be during the afternoon, but I think the sort of family meeting has become a bit more common. Anyway, and also, of course, your views on the MK caucus, on Zizi Kodwa, and all of it. You know how to get in touch with us this morning, 086 000 2032, USMS 41391, tweet SFM Radio, and that's Stephen Grootes. Send your WhatsApp voice note to 0614 104 107. Good morning. Nice to have you along this morning. It's 13 after 6.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Do you remember the cool times of Sports Buzz?
Coming up on Sports
Buzz used to be the go-to young people's sports show in Mzansi, Africa. The multi-sport award-winning youth magazine show. A great platform that profiled young athletes and teams. The glory days of Sports Buzz are back in a newly revamped youth sports show with a wow vibe. Goats Like Us. Yeah, Goats. Greatest of all time. Experience youth excellence in sports, profiling of active athletes and teams, latest news in the world of youth sport, the active voice of school sports, and promoting a healthy lifestyle among the youth. Do not miss out on Goats Like Us. Your front row seat awaits you every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag Goats, greatest of all time. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Eva, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Stephen?
I'm well. I see no statement yet about a cabinet announcement. I don't know if you see one.
The suspense is killing me. I will admit. Someone pranked me and sent me a PDF saying cabinet members, and I opened it and it's just a picture of a cabinet.
Someone did that and I was just banging my head on the nearest desk. I was so frustrated.
No, I get you.
Yeah.
So, in other news besides us waiting, the National Department of Health has reported another death related to the Mpox virus. This brings the total number of deaths to 3. So now the department says that these additional cases were reported and a total of 16 cases are now recorded in South Africa. Meanwhile, the Border Management Authority has also announced that the port health officials have developed an outbreak preparedness plan to deal with the Mpox outbreak. So this comes as a new strain is developing in the DRC, which researchers are saying is more severe.
Yeah, more and more we need to start being a little concerned about this, but all the measures sort of being implemented at the same time as well.
Yeah. In other news, MK Party members are planning to march to the Pietermaritzburg High Court in protest over the election results, as the party claims that the elections were rigged. So even though most of their members of parliament were sworn in yesterday, they still aggrieved of losing out on the KZN control, as well as saying that the elections are rigged.
Still no evidence presented in court, still no evidence given to any journalist, just the claim.
Yeah, just the hearsay for now. Now moving to the University of Cape Town, its council has adopted a resolution which calls for the boycotting of all Israeli academic institutions and researchers who are affiliated to the Israeli Defense Force. So now this is going on as the Israel-Hamas war continues. So the resolution says no UCT academic can enter into relations or continue relations with any research group or network which is affiliated to the IDF or the Israeli military establishment as a whole. Meanwhile, the SA Zionist Federation says they are dismayed by this development, which they say poses a risk to the institution's academic and financial well-being. They also say this marks a troubling turn for UCT's commitment to academic freedom and global collaboration.
Yeah, these arguments are always going to come up. And I mean, they'll remind some people of what was happening in the 1970s and 1980s to South African academics too. We've seen similar things like this in the past, of course.
Yeah. And lastly, in some international news, 5 protests have been shot and killed by police in Kenya, and a section of the parliament has gone up in flames as demonstrators were going against the new tax proposal, and those demonstrations escalated. So protesters say the bill would impose unaffordable tax rises on ordinary citizens and businesses which are already impacted by the high cost of living. So an angry crowd broke through police lines, stormed the parliament in the capital Nairobi before setting parts of it ablaze. So last night, President William Ruto deployed the military to quell protest and described the violence as an attack on the country's democracy.
Very, very serious. We'll have more on that with Sipho Montula in about 20 minutes from now. Eva Chipa, thank you very much. You'll be listening on the radio 18 minutes after 6.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
Let's have a look at your weather around the country this morning. Tshwane fine, a low of 7, a high of 20. Johannesburg fine, 4 and 17. This is what the South African Weather Service says for Vereniging this morning. It says morning frost, otherwise wife. That's what it says. I presume they mean fine? I mean, is wife a synonym for fine? Maybe not. Morning frost, otherwise wife. I think frost sometimes is a good way to... Never mind. Well, I'm presuming morning frost, otherwise fine in Vereniging this morning, 1 and 19. Bombela, cloudy, morning drizzle and fog patches, 10 and 23. Polokwane, cloudy at first, otherwise partly cloudy, 13 and 19. Mahikeng, partly cloudy, 7 and 20. Vryburg, fine, 1 and 22. Mangaung, fine, 1 and 20. Kimberley, fine, 2 and 21. Uppington, fine, 7 and 25. Cape Town, fine, a light and variable wind, 11 and 21. George, partly cloudy, morning fog patches, becoming fine from the afternoon, a light and variable wind, 9 and 18. Gqeberha, morning fog patches, otherwise fine, light and variable, 9 and 20. East London, cloudy morning fog patches, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, a light northwesterly wind, 13 and 21. eThekwini, partly cloudy, scattered morning showers and rain, fine from the late morning, a light westerly wind, 13 and 22. Richards Bay, cloudy, scattered showers and rain, a moderate southwesterly wind, 18 and 23. And Pietermaritzburg, partly cloudy, morning fog patches, otherwise fine, 5 and 22. Vereniging, how's your weather this morning? 20 after 6.
Hello, Your Choice Hotline.
Hi, I need you to help me make a choice.
Well, with Ford, you get to make your own choices. Like on brand new Ford Ranger XL, XLT, or Wildtrak Supercabs from only $7,999 per month with no deposit needed. There's a flexible deal for every Supercab at your nearest Ford dealership today. Your Ford, your choice. T&Cs apply.
Delve into the intense personal journeys of individuals whose bad choices have led to severe consequences. Where each episode unpacks these transformative stories told through raw, first-hand experiences of those who live them. It's a hard-hitting and emotional exploration of real-life struggles, showcasing the heavy price of redemption. Channel your best reality with My Secret Enemy, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3.
37-year-old Tebogo got a really great deal on his car insurance premium from Outsurance. He pays an amazing R762 per month to insure his white 2018 Ford Figo Ambiente. He now has extra cash every month to go out for a meal with his friends. Get an Outsurance quote today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 now. License, insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
21 after 6. On the remote American island of Saipan in the Northern Mariana Islands, the founder of the website WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, has pleaded guilty to breaking the US Espionage Act, but has also said he believed he has the right to publish American secrets through the First Amendment to the US Constitution. Assange has now been released after the judge hearing the case sentenced him to the time he had already been held in custody in a British prison. The US has sought to extradite Assange for years after he first published documents stolen by an American military official 14 years ago. For a long period of time, he stayed in the Ecuadorian embassy in the UK, fearing extradition to the US. Professor John Stremlau is an honorary professor of international relations at Wits University. Professor Stremlau, good morning.
Good morning to you, Stephen.
I mean, this brings an end to a saga that's been going for about 14 years. Very embarrassing in some ways for the United States. They sought his extradition for a long, long time. Why do you think they've just decided to kind of end it? I mean, he won't be going to an American jail at all.
Well, Barack Obama wanted to commute his sentence, and he ran out of time, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't get it arranged because at that time he was negotiating the Trans-Pacific Partnership and wanted to get all of the other countries on board. And this has been a contentious issue for as you say, many, many years. But at the heart of the matter, Stephen, it's really a tension between two democratic values. One, freedom of speech and free press. And secondly, the right of privacy, be them deliberations in the family and government, wherever. And these things are always in tensions, and it was against this background that Julian Assange came along. he was not old enough to remember the Vietnam War, but remember the Daniel Ellsberg and his Pentagon Papers. They were carefully vetted by the New York Times and the Washington Post. We had a confidence that what the press was doing in revealing the secrets about Vietnam was responsible. And then in the Iraq War, some of the earlier clips that Chelsea Manning or Edward Manning revealed to Assange were devastating, controversial intervention by the U.S. But then Assange just dumped all of these thousands and thousands of emails from both Manning and then Edward Snowden onto the internet without vetting in any case. And this created controversy. The left liked what he was doing, the right hated what he was doing, and so we've had this standoff for years.
Hanging over all of this, and you talk about these two tensions, the right to sort of freedom of information, the right to privacy. But I would imagine that more and more information is becoming about power, or power is becoming about information. We've made the point on this program in the past that, 200 years ago, great powers maybe competed for, gold deposits in certain countries. Now it's about control over information. And you see, for example, the arguments that people have about Russia and Ukraine, or about the United States relationship with China, or the situation in Gaza. These are all about information. And I would presume that we're going to see this more and more.
Yes, and you've really touched on a hot button here, because in the case of WikiLeaks, don't forget in the 2016 campaign, Russia was up to its eyeballs in trying to get information out, and supposedly those thousands and thousands of email leaks from the Democratic National Committee deliberations, which no one's ever read that I know of. But in any case, they were dumped into WikiLeaks with complicity from Russia. And then you had the Mueller Commission report, and that was detailing Russia's involvement in this. Now, all I'm just arguing for is deliberative due process. The Zondo Commission here was a classic case of Abu Bangani going down and exercising freedom of the press and finding out some kernels of truth. Then it was followed up by scholarly reporting on it, and then you had the Zondo Commission, which was authoritative. And that kind of responsible vetting of information is absolutely critical, which is why journalists who are responsible like you are so valuable to our society and our democratic deliberations.
Professor John Stremlau, as always, really appreciate the time. Thank you very much indeed. Honorary Professor of International Relations at Wits University. So much to look at in the power for information, or the power of information. 27 minutes after 6.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning.
Good morning.
So, Afghanistan, South Africa, tomorrow, the World Cup T20 semis.
Yes, and it seems like Jonathan Trott might know our secrets, but we've got our Protea fire ready to blaze. Now, Jonathan Trott is a South African-born coach for Afghanistan, and he believes that going into tomorrow's T20 World Cup semi-final against South Africa, boosted by having no scarring, no history, unlike the accident-prone Proteas. Afghanistan will be playing in the last four of any World Cup for the first time, and Trott is looking forward to taking on the Proteas.
But obviously delighted, looking forward to the match against a strong South African side. We've played a game at Trinidad, so we've been there. There's familiarity about the ground and the conditions. It's not every day you get to play in a World Cup semi-final. Obviously this is the first time for Afghanistan, very proud. But I know those guys are very excited to go out there and to play against South Africa. We had a good game against them in the 50-over World Cup, where it was neck and neck for a while.
Now, the Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has named a strong 39-man squad for the incoming series against Ireland and Portugal. The squad includes 22 forwards and 17 backs, with Erasmus set to name the captain closer to the Ireland test. Notable inclusions are Cheslin Colby and Lucanio Am, both returning from injury. And 4 uncapped players, Pepsi Buthelezi, Morne van den Berg, Johan Grobbelaar and Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Let's go to soccer. SABC Sport can confirm Sifiso Slanti, Keegan Dolly and Siatemba Sitebe will all be leaving Kaizer Chiefs at the end of the week following a decision by the club not to retain their services ahead of the new season. This means the trio will effectively become free agents and soon to be in a position to move to destinations of their choice. In the meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs defender Emerson Dove has offered some clarity on his decision to join the Mozambique squad in Gqeberha instead of returning to pre-season with the Soweto Giants under a new technical team. The 29-year-old is part of a COSAFA Cup side set to face Bafana Bafana in their opening match tonight at 6 p.m.
Obviously, I feel like as football players, this is probably one of the highest stages of our careers. Being here representing the nation, it's not only about myself, but obviously the coach spoke to me and he told me his ideas and what he was looking from me, and obviously I'm more than willing to be here to help. Obviously, the club situation obviously it's a bit tricky, but I think that's something that I'll give it a thought when I go back and reunite with the gents.
And finally, golf. The new Big Easy Tour got off to an exciting start at the Benoni Country Club, where Paris Golf and Country Club member Leon Foster shot an impressive 5 under 67 to lead by 1 shot after yesterday's round. We'll bring you more of these and other stories top of the hour on Sunrise. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. Well, more on the situation around Zikhodra in the next half hour. You're this FM leading the conversation. Good morning. Still no cabinet at 6:30.
News making headlines for this hour. The National Department of Health has confirmed another death related to the Mpox virus, bringing the total number of deaths to 3. The department says the death was one of 3 additional cases reported, and now a total of 16 Mpox cases have been recorded in South Africa. In other news, newly sworn in National Assembly member for the ANC, Zizi Kodwa, insists that he serves at the instruction of the party. He was among those sworn in which included 58 MPs from the MK party. And lastly, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on Kenyan police and security forces to exercise restraint and for the demonstrators to act peacefully. This after at least 5 people were killed in Nairobi. I'll be back at 7 with more on these and other stories. For SFM News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story, Joburg side, R21 by the airport going north. A truck crash, truck losing its load across the R21 north. Couple of lanes are closed, and the off-ramp, R21 north at Voortrekker, that is closed. That truck sort of ended up on that ramp. So if you normally go up the R21 and you're off-ramp at Voortrekker, you'll have to change your plan and select an alternative off-ramp into that airport area or into Kempton Park. Mopani Highway coming out of Shoshone down towards Pretoria CBD, looking fine this morning. That's Mopani Highway and SQ and Pathlali Drive. A little bit of traffic around Durban's Bayhead Road this morning. A lot of works on Bayhead Road around sort of Umbilo South Coast roadside. So that plus the truck volumes. We are able to confirm the closure of the N3 today. Balgowan down to Lions River area. It'll just be Durban bound. It'll be between 10 a.m. and 12 lunchtime. So a 2-hour full closure Durban bound. Motorists will be able to come off at Nottingham Road or Balgowan, take the alternative Midlands Meander if you like. Truckers will just be stacked and not permitted onto those local routes. So really for the trucking industry, just to choose a good time to be through between Moy River and Howick, which would be to travel before 10 or to go after 12 to avoid the stacking situation. Cape Town off to a pretty good start this morning. Just the N7 Jake Skirville Drive, which is looking fairly jam-packed, passing Langa up towards Beaufort Circle as you come into Epping. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Intalengla Chele, good morning. How are you doing?
Morning, Stephen. I'm good, thanks. I hope you're well.
Yeah, good. How are the markets looking?
So that one catalyst that's been heavily moving markets is back at it. Nvidia snapped back with a vengeance yesterday after a 3-session slide that carried the stock into correction territory. Now this saw the tech-heavy Nasdaq close near 1.5% higher in yesterday's close. Markets in the US were mostly higher, with the Nasdaq and S&P 500 posting gains while the Dow ended in the red. Moving over to Asia, those stocks moving higher after a tech-led bounce on Wall Street as investors prepare for the release of crucial US inflation data. Back at home, sentiment has turned sour, with the JSE posting losses. The all-share closed the day 0.85% in the red. This was fueled by the industrial 25, which shed 1.2% by the close. In your currency markets, we are seeing some weakness in the rand as traders remain cautious, digesting the downbeat employment figures and awaiting President Ramaphosa's cabinet announcement. With that, we saw the local unit trading at 18.23 to the dollar.
Aren't we all waiting? US consumer confidence dipping in June.
While US consumers seem to be less confident in the prospects of the economy, that's as the Consumer Morale Index fell slightly to 100.4 points in June from a downwardly revised level of 101.3 in May. Now, this reading came in line with economists' expectations, but economists have said the print reinforces the heightened concerns about the trajectory of growth in an elevated inflation and high interest rate environment. On the bright side, the chief economist of the conference board noted that Americans felt better about the labor market, which outweighed concerns about the future, but consumers' feelings on current business conditions cooled. Economists have further warned that confidence could get shakier moving forward as Americans prepare to take to the polls later this year.
And then Novo Nordisk's Wegovy weight loss drug has got the green light in China.
That's right. Now, Novo Nordisk received approval from Chinese authorities yesterday, allowing it to sell its weight loss drug Wegovy in the country. This move paves the way for the company to tap into the world's second largest economy, where demand for these kind of drugs has been skyrocketing. Now, this announcement comes as it's been investing in its manufacturing capacity to meet high demand for both of its products, Wegovy and Ozempic, which are designed to treat diabetes. Now, earlier this week, Novo Nordisk said it would invest $4.1 billion in expanding its U.S. manufacturing operations. Novo Nordisk's popularity and success with these drugs has helped it make it the most valuable company in Europe, with a market capitalization of over $630 billion. And this despite struggling to keep up with the overwhelming demand. Markets welcomed the move, boosting a number of pharmaceutical counters in Europe, including Novo, which ended the day 4% higher.
Very interesting. Intal Lengla, thank you very much indeed. Back, of course, in an hour, more business news through the day here on SAFM.
Africa Update on SAFM Sunrise, a continental overview of current African affairs.
Brass Advocate Sipho Mantula, good morning. Sure, very serious situation in Kenya. At least 5 dead, we understand. The president saying he wants to deploy the military. This is after the protests outside Parliament.
Stephen, that is quite true that the defense minister also said that they will deploy the army to help the police to deal with what they call security emergency. William Ruto saying, Stephen, this tech debate has been hijacked by dangerous people, as well as from Addis Ababa AU condemning what has happened in Kenya yesterday, as well as the US. So there's a tension going on, Stephen, because yesterday there was some burning parts of the parliament, and at the same time there was this killing of more than 5 people so far by the reporters who have picked up that 5 bodies were taken out of the parliament section, and members of parliament had to leave through the underground tunnel. Raila Odinga is calling for a dialogue, Stephen.
And then in Rwanda, attendees of a re-election rally for President Paul Kagame, there was a stampede.
There was a stampede in the western Rwanda, in the village called Rubavu, where Paul Kagame is campaigning. Stephen, remember, Rwanda decides on the 15th of July next month. And now there was one person who lost his life and 4 people were injured during that campaign of Paul Kagame. We have 3 candidates only, Stephen, that we have said on the show: Frank Habineza, as well as Philip Mpayimana, who are contesting with Paul Kagame.
And then in the DRC, there's a group of young people known as the Wazalendo. They say they want to defend their country.
Stephen, they've taken up what we can call a voluntary military training as patriotic resistors. That's the meaning of Wazalendo. This is a group that is in the North Kivu that is also assisting the government of DRC to deal with the M23 rebels that have intensified in the North Kivu region. That says that they are also assisting the SADC mission that is there, as well as MONUSCO peacekeeping mission that is facing out in the DRC.
And then in Botswana, the US Africa Command, they're packing up their equipment in Niger.
See, when they're picking up, but they are saying that in this military defense conference, that is for the first time in the Southern Africa, they are sending a warning through their intelligence that the growing insurgency in the Sahel region is pushing the U.S. now to move from the Sahel region, and they are raising the threats that are happening in the U.S. as well as the way it happened in Afghanistan in 2021 when they have to pull out after the Taliban take over. So they are raising the challenges of West Africa. They are now in the Southern Africa. Even remember, it's the Africa Command that we even spoke about it last week, that there is a big conference of military chiefs in Gaborone. So they are raising this question of the threat in the Sahel region.
And then in our archives this day, 26th of June 1959. Very important event, actually.
Very important event. 65 years ago in the province of Mpumalanga in Bethel, there was a countrywide potato boycott that was led by the South African Congress of Trade Unions. This was a broad struggle, Stephen, around the issues of food, around the issues of boycott, and the issues of slave wages that was happening in the farms in Mpumalanga, in the then Eastern Transvaal. It was in the area called Bethel. Asante Sana LG, also still leading the conversation, SAFM, observing the youth man.
Russ Advocate Sipho Mantula, thank you so much. 21 minutes to 7.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Mbona on the line from Mahakeng. Mbona, hi, good morning. Umkhonto Wesizwe, go for it.
Good morning.
Morning, Mbona.
Yeah, you see, nationalizing of land.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the solution for the African problem.
Why is that?
Berlin Conference, that's when was decided to how they're going to take all the African lands.
Yeah.
Understand?
Yeah.
Then land was stolen in 1930.
Yeah.
1930, they divided among themselves. So if MK is coming in 2024 and saying they're going to take land back and nationalize it, is nothing wrong because it was stolen.
Sure. But if you nationalize it, who controls it? I mean, who gets to decide who can live where? I mean, I hear you, Mbona. I'm not arguing with you on the facts at all. You're entirely correct about the Berlin Conference, the Land Act, and all the rest. I just want to know how it gets administered after that.
That's where traditional leaders play the law, because even before they took the land was being used. So that's the same way it's going to be used, because the traditions, they know the real people belong in the village. It's not going to be outsiders come and take land and do what they want.
So do you think traditional leaders could manage it now?
Traditional leaders are entitled to manage it, because that's how we grew up knowing.
Yeah. All right.
We were not knowing who is a foreigner. The foreigner thing is very new to us. Because if you are not known by the traditional leader, you not belong there. So you cannot claim anything from that field.
All right. I mean, I know of people we've had a white person phone in and tell us that he was allowed to live on traditional land. He went to the leader, he spoke to the leader, he lived in the area, and the leader said, sure. I mean, you wouldn't oppose that. It's up to the leader.
Yes, there's nothing wrong to do with that, but he cannot claim to say is now belong to his.
No, sure. Absolutely. Yes. No, I'm with you on there. All right. Mbona, thank you very much indeed. Mbona on the line from Mahakeng. Let's go to George in KwaZulu-Natal. George, the coalition government, hi.
Yes, good morning, Stephen. I just want to encourage the DA to put their foot down about their demands. I don't see anything wrong with their demands on their league letter. If they want to come with their DG, because they want us to see the difference. We don't want to see potholes. We want permanent electricity. We want jobs and so on. So if the DA take any ministry, we want to see the difference between the DA and the ANC. So they mustn't compromise. So people can criticize and so on. We did not vote for ANC for a reason, because we knew that the ANC is arrogant, is behaving like a boss. So we want the ANC to be humble, to say, hey, please, Gokozile, can you please give us your vote so that we get to 50 plus 1? But the way they are doing now, to say, no, we don't care. We can speak to one seat party. We can speak to that one, one. And I am sure that when they go to Nkandla, MK will put their foot down. If they go to EFF will not compromise. So they are in the tight spot where we wanted them.
Sure.
Currently, they think they are in a free spot where they can speak to that party, smaller parties. But I know eventually they must confront DA and they must go either to MK, EFF coalition, and that's where we wanted them.
All right, George and KwaZulu-Natal, thank you. I mean, we'll talk about the sort of politicization or how to manage the civil service with Mbazima Shalowa in a few minutes. 6 minutes to 7.
Which is the best way to reach success? Is it best to go alone so you can go fast? Or for many to go together so they can go far? What if you need to go fast and far? At RMB, we believe the best way to success doesn't make you choose when both are possible. When you need a thoughtful solution for financial complexity, there are only 3 letters you need to know. RMB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at Outsurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. You'll also find out about included benefits like panic assistance and help it out 24-hour roadside assistance. Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
Help it out, took the family up to go and see the snow and I got stuck. The service was quick even though it was in a very remote area. Absolutely phenomenal service from Outsurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
14 minutes to 7. Good morning. The ANC in Limpopo says it supports the decision of the new Premier, Poppy Ramatuba, to appoint Khabo Mogai as the finance MEC there. Mogai was sacked as Director General of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation after he tried to arrange a deal involving land in New York. It came to a total of 118 million rand. Durko said, and there was a finding that he was guilty of gross negligence, gross dereliction of duty, a breach of legal obligations, and irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. Jimmy Matole is the spokesperson for the ANC in Limpopo. Jimmy, good morning.
Good morning to you, Stephen, and good morning to all your listeners.
Why is Khabo Mogai found guilty of gross negligence, gross dereliction of duty, a breach of legal obligations, and irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure the right person to be finance MEC in Limpopo?
The ANC in Limpopo province does not only welcome the appointment of Khabo Mogai, but the entire Limpopo Provincial Executive Council. This is a combination of the young and the old, most experienced comrades within structures of organization, inclusion of young people with skills and expertise. You will understand if you clearly follow the history of the matter of Khabo Mogai with DICO, is that Comrade Khabo Mogai happened to be a scapegoat. You'll understand that when this transaction in question started, the procurement part of he was not the DG as yet. He only came in when the transaction was already procured, and his role was the part of the signing of PPA agreement as well as the approval of the advance payment that was made to the service provider, which was procured during the time that he was not yet a DG. So it is on that basis that with facts that were presented before the ANC and before the Premier of the province of Limpopo, then a determination was made that in light of these facts, there is nothing in law and politically that prevent his appointment, particularly with regard to the Treasury.
That doesn't mean it's necessarily still the correct or the morally right thing to do, Jimmy. If it is the case that you say he was a scapegoat, he must have this arbitration finding overturned, but he lost the arbitration. He must go to court. But surely to say that someone who has a finding against them from a government department run by the same political party that you come from, they're both from the ANC, to find someone who is guilty of gross dereliction of duty and put them in charge of the finances of Limpopo, is that really the right decision? Is he the only person available?
In the normal course of events, DICO ought to have waited for the outcomes of the High Court, because the subject matter was already in the High Court, wherein the same DG, Mr. Mawai, was trying to set aside the appointment which gave rise to the irregular expenditure. And you'll also agree with me, last year the Supreme Court of Appeal has agreed and ruled in his favor, agreeing that the appointment of the contract in the first place was irregular and invalid, and it was duly set aside. The second part was that the advance payment that had already been made to the service provider ought to be recovered. That clearly shows that there is in no way a person who has acted in that professional manner within the boundaries of the law ought to have been subjected to a disciplinary proceedings in the first place. But be that it may, there is an arbitration award that agreed with DICO. However, we must also appreciate that he's at the final edge of filing a review application that will be heard by the Labour Court. Therefore, you will then see that Mawai is doing everything in his power to make sure that his name is cleared. But then why not? The fact that he was made a scapegoat.
Why not wait until that is over? I mean, why make the appointment now? Is there no one else in the ANC in Limpopo who can be finance MEC? I mean, you must imagine for a moment, Jimmy, the ANC keeps saying it's trying to renew itself. It keeps trying to say that it does not encourage corruption. Here's a person with a finding against them from an ANC-led department about money, gross negligence, who you've now appointed finance MEC. How do you think voters are supposed to understand this?
Firstly, we must make it very clear that Mr. Mawai there is no any finding against him as far as criminal elements or corruptions are concerned. Secondly, he has not even been charged, or there is no any impeding criminal proceedings against him. Let's allow the law to take its course. Already by the fact that you are sitting with a judgment from Supreme Court of Appeal that confirms his contention is a clear demonstration that even the disciplinary hearing ought not to have found him guilty in the first place.
Do you believe any bank or any big company in the country would appoint a person with a finding like this as a finance director? Do you think anyone in the private sector would do it?
They will do. Remember, it will depend on facts of the matter. The facts that are before us in public domain, in the Supreme Court of Appeal judgment, clearly vindicate Mr. Mawai. There is nothing. You will also, if you have time, look at page 53 of the judgment. It clearly says certain information were withheld from him when this particular deal was paid. Should this information have been made available to him, definitely he will not have signed or approved the payment. But in any event, let's appreciate that it is not a deal that was initiated and finalized by him. It's a deal that he found that was already in place at the time he became the DG of DICO.
Jimmy Matole, thank you very much indeed. Spokesperson for the ANC in Limpopo, 8 minutes to 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Wednesday generally is a very busy day. It's a sort of midweek day where if you do that hybrid work from home, go to the office, it's pretty much all in on a Wednesday. And you can see that in the traffic. Routes like the N3 fully packed already from Germiston through to the Galooly interchange up through Bedford. I just put a video up on x.com at Traffic SA. You can just have a look and see how much volume we're actually talking about on Joburg's N3. It is a lot. The Mike one going north, pretty heavy as well from Gold Reef City through to Smith Street. There is a broken down vehicle vehicle as you sort of emerge from the double-decker. And the N1 fully loaded as well. Pretoria down to Joburg on that section between Old Joburg Road and the New Road exit. So if you've got some travels to make around Gauteng province this morning, give yourself some extra time to get through. It is a busy day. The R21, a truck crash opposite the airport near Ford Trekker Road, likely to have an impact on traffic flow for some time this morning. Durban Z2 now queuing reasonably heavily from the M7 up through towards Westwood Mall. That's the volume of traffic driving into the roadworks. Some roadworks on the Bayhead Road around South Coast Road causing some additional delays for truckers as well. A couple of big truck crashes, one between Three Sisters and the Beaufort West on the N1. There's another truck that's jackknifed on the N10 between Craddock and Cookhouse, about 28 k's outside Craddock. That truck is jackknifed across the N10 in some heavy mist as well. So caution required that part of the Eastern Cape this morning along that N10 route. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Youth Month Takeover. SAFM invites young people between the ages of 18 to 35 to take over the airwaves this Youth Month. All you have to do is send a WhatsApp voice note or text message to 061 410 4107 or email info@safm.co.za. Tell us which show you'd like to co-host and what the two compelling issues facing our 30 years of democracy are, and we could be calling you. Terms and conditions apply.
Big stories of the day. #SAFM Sunrise.
6 minutes now to 7 the time. Good to hear from you. You heard that conversation around the Limpopo Finance MEC. Well, while we wait for the formation of a government, the people who are civil servants, directors general and other top officials are really, I suppose, running most of the country. At the same time, it appears the ANC and the DA may be arguing about the role of civil servants. The DA has said it wants the right to select directors general in departments its ministers would lead. And this takes us straight to a question of how the civil service actually operates. And Bazima Shalowa has been looking at this. He's former Premier of Gauteng, former Secretary General of COSATU, and of course writes now for News 24. And Bazima, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning to your listeners.
I mean, this entire issue takes us straight to the real role of senior officials in government. I suppose we could call it the sort of de facto role. I mean, technically, they shouldn't be working for a political party, but so often we find there's a sort of politicization that takes place in some way.
Yes, indeed. They work for the state, but obviously because the state is of this or that political party, the state will always, the ministers will always say they know their role is policy making. Once policy has been made in theory, the bureaucrats should be able to run with it. Some ministers allow that. Some ministers try and interfere. But the point I was making in my article is that what we see with now this current impasse on the government of national unity, basically you have a President Ramaphosa, and then the rest is the bureaucrats. And those bureaucrats, understandably, are the ones who spend the money. So they look at, this is our budget, this is the process, this is what's supposed to be done, and they continue with that. And I'm hoping that from this experience, we will all learn that it is possible to create a professional public service, especially the heads, provided they are allowed to do their job.
There'll be so many consequences. I mean, for example, if we look at what the NPA has said in its claim around the former defense minister, Nosivuma Pisingakula, about how she, according to them, was taking money for defense ministry tenders, when a minister should have no role in that. I mean, if we look at what's been reported about Digital Vibes and Dr. William Kize, for example, again, he should have no role in tenders. And yet, kind of, it does seem that ministers or MECs or, political officials sometimes do. If we had a properly politically independent civil service, that kind of thing, or the claims that we've seen, would probably stop.
Yes and no, Stephen. Let me start by saying that you will find that in most of these instances, these issues happened outside of the civil service. That's why you find no DG would be pointed out as having been involved or aided it. whether it's Digital Vibes, whether it's Minister Mapisa Ngakula. Because what tends to happen is that people whisper outside, well, we know you're getting this tender. You must know I was involved in you getting it, so you must do something for me. And then it becomes a side hustle. I'm saying yes and no because even if you look at the UK, where you've got what I call really the best public service, in that it remains regardless of whether it's the Conservative or it's Labour Party. Yet you will find that there ministers also have some side hustles. It just happens that politicians can never help themselves. Whenever resources seem to be available.
I mean, the DA seems to want the president to appoint. I mean, there's so many different ways this could go. It would seem quite difficult for me to see the DA being able to appoint their own directors general. But it's also quite difficult for the president to, or the ANC, or or cabinet, to appoint directors general in sort of departments with, for example, DA ministers. I mean, there's a whole big set of issues here. I don't know if we're going to get these resolved in time for a coalition government or a coalition cabinet to be formed.
No, I think that the DA is confusing two situations. If in a particular department where there will be a DA minister, an HOD's contract is coming to an end, that minister will be entitled to be able to have a panel that will include him or her, that will include a different a DG and two other ministers. They would interview that person and then they will send the name to the president who, having looked at the qualifications, would say yes or no. That process is perfectly normal. What I am against is where the DA has not had a record of how good or bad this HOD is and simply says that HOD must leave simply because he had been there before they came in. That must not be allowed.
Mbazima Shiloh, as always, thank you very much indeed. You're with SFM leading the conversation. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS car to 43517 now.
Top stories for this hour. Mpox death toll rises to 3, and EFF calls for the removal of the Mpumalanga Education MEC. Good morning, I'm Eva Chipa. The National Department of Health has confirmed another death related to the Mpox virus, bringing the total number of deaths to 3. The department says the death was one of the 3 additional cases reported, and now a total of 16 Mpox cases have been recorded in South Africa. A 40-year-old man from Ladysmith in KZN passed away at home before receiving medical attention, while the other 2 deaths were reported in Gauteng, with 2 men aged 43 and 29. Department spokesperson Foster Mohale says a total of 8 cases were recorded, 7 in Gauteng, 1 case in the Western Cape.
The department would like to allay fears of possible travel restrictions or lockdowns due to Mpox outbreak because the World Health Organization has not recommended any travel restrictions. However, it is important for travelers from Mpox endemic countries to seek health care if they are ill and to alert health officials about their travel for clinical evaluation.
Newly sworn in National Assembly member for the ANC, Zizi Kodwa, insists that he serves at the instruction of the party. He was among those sworn in, which included 58 MPs from the MK party. Kodwa resigned as minister and member of the ANC NEC about 2 weeks ago, following his appearance in court on allegations of corruption. He says he is serving as a member of the ANC.
The list of the party has been certified. I'm on that list. You are expected as a member who are on that list to come and be sworn in as a member of parliament. That's why I'm here today.
In other news, the EFF in Mpumalanga is calling for the removal of the newly appointed Provincial Education MEC, Kathy Dlamini. The party is accusing Dlamini of corruption barely 2 weeks into a term of office. Provincial EFF Deputy Secretary Ntsako Makabela says Dlamini instructed senior officials in her department to cancel all the contracts entered into before her arrival. Makabela says they will request Premier Mandla Ndlovu to take action against the MEC.
We highlighted to him that they must make sure that they don't interfere with administration. They must stay away from administration because this thing makes the department or the work of the governance to suffer and not go as smooth as we expect it to be. So we are going to write to the Premier of the province to request him to remove the MEC of Education with immediate effect. And we are also going to write to the Public Protector to act on the conduct of this MEC Dlamini.
The University of Cape Town's council has adopted a resolution which calls for the boycotting of all Israeli academic institutions and researchers who are affiliated to the Israeli Defense Force. The resolution was passed amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. In terms of the resolution, no UCT academic may enter into relations or continue relations with any research group or network that is affiliated to the Israeli Defense Force or the broader Israeli military establishment. UCT spokesperson Belisile Bukula says they are calling for a permanent ceasefire and for humanitarian aid to be allowed to enter Gaza.
The Council condemned the destruction of the education sector in Gaza and the massive scale of killing of teachers and university staff in the current war. The Council urged the international community to ensure that the provision of humanitarian aid includes the restoration of the education sector in Gaza. It also expresses concerns and opposition to any attempt to curtail academic freedom by labeling criticism of Israel or Zionist policies as anti-Semitism.
And lastly, looking further afield, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on Kenyan police and security forces to exercise restraint and for demonstrators to act peacefully after at least 5 people were killed in Nairobi. Kenyan police opened fire on protesters who stormed the parliamentary building, setting a part of the structure alight. The demonstrators were protesting the East African nation's legislative approval of a finance tax bill amid the rising cost of living in the country. The UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric.
We're also very concerned about reported cases of targeted arbitrary detentions. It is very important that the rights of people to demonstrate peacefully be upheld. As we say anywhere around the world, it is up also to authorities to ensure that those rights are respected and that all incidents of deaths in the hands of security forces be fully investigated, that people be held to account.
Recapping the top story for this hour, the National Department of Health has confirmed another death related to the Mpox virus, bringing the total number of deaths to 3. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour for SFM News. I'm Eva Chipa.
Eva, thank you. And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and R1 million liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43517. Forget everything else for a moment and listen to this. Outsurance Essential is a custom-designed and perfectly priced car insurance product available to owners of unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at under 125,000 Rand. But the real game changer is the fact that your claim is paid out in cash, which gives you the freedom to choose any panel beater of your choice. SMS CAR to 43187 for an Outsurance Essential quote. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket, the Proteas face travel challenges as they gear up for the ICC T20 World Cup semi-final. And in rugby, Siya Kolisi returns to the Springbok squad for the upcoming Test series against Ireland and Portugal. All this and more just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Generally a very busy morning, particularly across Gauteng. Make sure you've got extra time to get through. A couple of the really busy routes are being obstructed with a breakdown on the Mike 1 North around Smith Street, so that's very heavy getting through the Crown. That traffic almost back to Ormonde territory. M2 from Joe Slover into Crown's bad. And there's a breakdown on the M1 South around Samran, so busy run from Pretoria down to Joburg through Midrand. Traffic under pressure from Old Joburg through the New Road, and that breakdown not helping at all. Durban side today, queuing up on the N2. It's already clogged between the M7 and Westwood Mall. The M4 Southern Freeway clear of any roadworks today, so that's a good run through Congela and Umbilo. And Cape Town on top of the roadworks on AZ Berman in Mitchell's Plain. There's also been a collision scene. AZ Berman at Highlands Drive. Just add a bit more delay into that Mitchell's Plain area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
8 minutes after 7, good morning, you're with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. All right, a lot more to come. The ANC, we understand, holding a meeting with Action SA yesterday. We'll hear from them about that meeting. More also a reaction to the swearing in of Zizi Kodwa as an MP for the ANC. Very interesting development, that, looking at that. And then your mediated conversation, we thought probably important to spend a bit more time looking at stock theft after that conversation we had yesterday, and particularly in KwaZulu-Natal. You know the number, 086 000 2032. Good morning, it's 8 after 7.
The National Pulse on SAFM.
So somebody who's not from that stock, if I can call it that, let's say again I mentioned, so somebody who's black, who's of a Zulu, speaking background, who then embraces the Afrikaner culture because he or she's very impressed by that, who then wants to embrace that fully. Can they embrace it and therefore be a part of Orania and live amongst the Oranians?
Okay, I'm going to answer in two phases. The first phase will be to say anyone can apply to come and live in Orania, and case by case, the application to become a part of the community is handled in good faith, and there's no reference to race in any of our documents, as anyone is free to look out.
Let's leave it at US Stratum Orania spokesperson.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Agenda setting conversations of the day.
9 minutes after 7. Well, plenty going on at the moment. While we still wait for the announcement of a cabinet by the president, still many meetings going on between political parties over the last few days. We've seen the PAC, the Freedom Front Plus, El Jamar and Rise Mzansi all joining the coalition government. But some parties, like the ATM, have said they will not join the new government. Of course, MK and the FF both say they'll stay in opposition. It's now emerged the political party Action SA met with the ANC yesterday. Herman Mashaba, as you know, has said many times he started Action SA to get the ANC out of power. The parliamentary leader of Action SA is Athol Trollope. Athol, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. You met with the ANC yesterday. In your statement, you say you complimented them on how they've tried to bring stability. Did you find things you agree on?
Look, it wasn't really to find things on agreement. What we did was to reinforce our position, and our position has been clear for a number of years now, in fact, since the inception of Action SA, and I reinforced this in my welcome speech to the President after he was elected in Parliament, to say that we will not be joining the GNU. We will not be part of the Progressive Caucus. Well, I don't know whoever named it the Progressive Caucus. It's more like a regressive caucus in Parliament. So we find ourselves between two big blocks in Parliament. It's the governing bloc, which seems to be getting bigger by the day, and the progressive stroke regressive caucus, and that puts us right in the middle where we want to be. We want to be a ballast and balance, and we want to be a critical but constructive opposition. And we were approached by the Government of National Unity in Mpumalanga, and they offered our representative in that legislature the Scopa chairmanship. Now that is quite conventional. Normally that position goes to a member of the opposition, which we are. But what we found interesting was that the ANC made that overture to us, and we met to discuss that, and we met to confirm that if they do things and promulgate legislation that puts South African first and takes our economy forward, we will support them. I made it clear that we won't be in opposition for the sake of opposing. And that's what those discussions were about reinforcing our position in opposition and also saying that we want to be part of putting South Africa first.
Okay, I mean, we know that Herman Mashaba maybe hates too strong a word, but he opposes the ANC. Is this all about his sort of personal feelings about the ANC? I mean, he said he got into politics to remove the ANC from power. Is that maybe creating trouble for you now?
No, absolutely not. I don't think Herman Mashaba hates the ANC either. He will be the first to tell you that he supported the ANC not only with his vote, but also with financial means in 1994 and the election thereafter. His disillusionment with the ANC resulted in him saying that he doesn't believe you can go into government to fix South Africa with the very people that broke South Africa. So that's our position, and that's our party position. It's not a position of a one person in our party. We've agreed, all of us in our Senate and at our policy conferences, that we will not go into government with the ANC. But that doesn't mean that we hate the ANC. It doesn't mean that we're not going to become part of finding solutions for this country. Our election manifesto and slogan was, we want to fix South Africa. And my last words to Cyril Ramaphosa after he was appointed as the president in Parliament was that, good luck, Mr. President. We want to fix South Africa, and where we can work with you, we will work with you. Where we can't, we will hold you to account.
Are you going to, you say you won't work with the sort of caucus of parties. Presumably you have a very different view on how to oppose from the EFF and MK. Both of them have said they won't be disruptive. I can't see that you would be disruptive either. But would you be prepared to work with them on a case-by-case basis too?
Look, Stephen, I think what's a really interesting new dynamic in Parliament is the fact that we don't have one-party domination. That's the first time we've had that in South Africa for about 130 years. So that's a very new dynamic, and even though there are 12 parties now in the Government of National Unity, there's nothing that prevents Action SA speaking to those political parties that are even in government around private members' bills, about coming with proposals to deal with the many challenges that face South Africans. And as we build relations in portfolio committees, because this is what the public need to understand, is that the real constructive work of Parliament takes place in portfolio committees, not under the spotlight of national television where you're in a plenary and people are, putting their party first and it's all about brinkmanship and showmanship. In portfolio committees, proper work takes place. And there you start building relationships with political parties across the aisles, whether they're in opposition or in government, about finding the very best solutions and resolutions for South Africa. So that's what the next 5 years will be happening in Parliament. Certainly under my leadership, we will be looking to build relations with individuals and parties that we believe are moderate and that want to find solutions to grow the economy, to rebuild our international reputation, to create jobs, and also to prevent unethical behavior, which is one of the issues that we raised recently about the return to Parliament of Zizi Kodwa. Now, to us, that's completely confounding, and it goes against the grain of what the ANC, for example, and the President have been saying for a long, long time. Zizi Kodwa resigned shortly before the election as the minister because there was serious charges of corruption against him. There's a prima facie case of corruption against him. He's out on bail and he gets sworn into Parliament. So two things have happened. One, the Integrity Commission of the ANC is clearly not working because even COSATU have questioned him being sworn in. We are questioning him being sworn in. We are going to demand of the Ethics Committee that they investigate Mr. Zizi Kodwa because we don't believe he's suitable to serve as a Member of Parliament. You will know that last week there were petitions flying around the country about other members from other political parties not being suitable and that they should be removed. We want the rules to be applied fairly across the board, and Zizi Kodwa's case will be put to the Ethics Committee, as will any other case of people that have questionable reputations or backgrounds. We're going to put those cases to the Ethics Committee in Parliament and say to them, investigate these things because South Africans are desperate for ethical, exemplary leadership. And if the parliamentary leadership from political parties is not ethical and not exemplary, it will never serve the purposes of taking this country forward.
And then, Athol, in the parliamentary election in the National Assembly for the President, it was Julius Malema and Cyril Ramaphosa, a secret ballot. Who did you vote for?
It was a secret ballot.
You're not going to tell us who you voted for. You represent Action SA voters. It's not your own vote.
Absolutely not. That's why it's a secret ballot. And we reserve our choices. We can abstain, we will vote for or against, and that's what we will do over the next 5 years. We have been mandated by our supporters to come to Parliament to represent them. We'll represent them in the very best way possible.
But they don't know what you did.
If there's a secret ballot, no, Stephen, I don't know what you did at the ballot box the other day either.
But I was representing myself. You're representing voters. That's the difference.
It's a secret ballot for a very, very good reason. It's a strategic decision, and we took strategic decisions, and we exercised our right as a block of parliamentarians to exercise a secret vote.
Athol Trollip, thank you very much indeed. Parliamentary Leader of Action SA, 17 after 7.
SAFM Youth Month Takeover. SAFM invites young people between the ages of 18 to 35 to take over the airwaves this Youth Month. All you have to do is send a WhatsApp voice note or text message to 061 410 4107 or email info@safm.co.za. Tell us which show you'd like to co-host and what the 2 compelling issues facing our 30 years of democracy are, and we could be calling you. Terms and conditions apply.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
18 after 7. Well, let's return to the story around Zizi Kodwa. Yesterday, the former Minister of Sport being sworn in as a Member of Parliament. He does face criminal charges relating to the 1.6 million rand he received from the company EOH during the state capture era. Earlier this week, the ANC spokesperson, Mahlengi Bengu-Motsiri, appeared to indicate to you that while he was due to be sworn in, that may not happen in the end, though. And maybe despite that, he was sworn in as an MP to represent the ANC yesterday. Kodwa had previously stepped aside from his position, so after being criminally charged, he was asked questions yesterday about why he was being sworn in. He referred those questions essentially to the ANC. Well, various people have various views on this. Let's start with the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU. Their national spokesperson is Zanele Sabela. Zanele, good morning.
Morning, Stephen. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How do you feel about this as COSATU? Should Zizi Kodwa be back in Parliament?
We're a bit shocked, actually, a bit baffled. When we heard that he could be sworn in, we didn't think they'd actually go through with it. So it was actually a surprise, given that he, when he was charged, he didn't need pushing. He actually just resigned. And we thought, wow, amazing. We commended him on that. And now to see him back in Parliament being sworn in as an MP is actually quite baffling. What happened to the step aside rule that they have that they came up with themselves? Nobody pushed. They came up with it themselves. And so now we are baffled, and we were just wondering what's happening with the renewal program that they said they were on.
We've seen this issue again and again in the ANC. So someone will be charged with something, or someone will be accused of something. We just heard about the Limpopo Finance MEC half an hour ago. And the person ends up in Parliament or a provincial legislature. Do you think that played a big role in the ANC falling to 40% in the election? I mean, voters have been watching this for 30 years.
So that's the other thing. We thought this particular election was definitely voters sending a clear message that whatever has happened in the last 30 years, it stops now. And so, given that now the ANC has to scramble and form a government of national unity, and it's taking a lot longer than it should, we thought, we'd learned our lessons. No, this is it, and we're supposed to go ahead now and do things right. And also, you have to question the former speaker, who actually also had to resign, and she's keeping to her word. MP Zizi Kodwa is going to be going in and out of court. What then happens to his work as an MP as he comes in and out of court? Because, the wheels of justice do tend to grind slowly.
Are there other people in the ANC caucus in the National Assembly who maybe shouldn't be there either? I mean, Malusi Gigaba has findings against him by the Zondo Commission. Of course, the difference is he hasn't been criminally charged. But do you think someone like he should also not be in Parliament? How do you feel about that?
We're hoping that the time he's been away for 6 years. 6 years is a very long time. We are hoping that he has had time to reflect. and learned his lessons. So we will see, and we will keep calling them out. We'll keep calling the ANC out for these particular things that should stop happening.
Zanele Sabela, thank you very much indeed. National spokesperson for the Congress of South African Trade Unions. You with SAFM. It's 22 minutes after 7. Nishan Bolton is the director of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. Nishan, good morning to you. What message do you think the swearing in of Zizi Kodwa to represent the ANC in the National Assembly is sending to voters?
Good morning and greetings. It's a baffling move. It's also a cynical move. Cynical in the sense that I think pre-elections, the ANC would have weighed up the optics of this and said, well, will this win us votes or will it lose us votes? And in an effort to improve its image at the last minute, he steps down, he resigns, and creates the impression that that would continue post-elections. Post-elections, the ANC then weighs up and says, well, it doesn't really matter too much. We've got 40%, and we can withstand whatever public pressure comes. But I don't think they realize that how this feeds in to the fact that the vast majority of people didn't vote, are incredibly cynical about politics. There's a huge distrust. And this feeds into that the trend of thought. So it's a baffling move, one that they must surely answer for, but it wasn't the correct thing to do.
Nishan, I mean, yesterday we saw the swearing in of Kodwa. We saw the swearing in of people from Konto Sizwe as well, the former judge who's been impeached, Des van Rooyen, and Dilem Mqitama, who took money from Bell Pottinger. What message does it send to our society when we have people who may have serious questions to answer, Malusi Gigaba as well, of course, or back in our parliament?
I think what they now have is parliament that has elements of possibly the worst in politics, and hopefully we will also get to understand who are the better ones. I think it would be living in a dream, in a fool's paradise, to assume that it's only the kind of good people who would have made it into parliament. Our world is not like that. Our politics is not like that. But I think what this does is that it means that the people who have counter views to those of MK and others and all of these who are tainted are really going to have to show a different caliber and quality of their parliamentary work, both inside and outside. I foresee a heightened degree of contestation over ideas, both in and outside, and we've already seen it in some of the interviews. And therefore, the people who I would, for want of a better word, call them progressive, although there is this progressive focus, would have to sharpen up their game considerably. So I think the theatrics of Parliament can go very badly, or this could be a useful opportunity for much more deeper engagement on substantial issues, led by people who have really good ideas. But it is a worrying development to have people who have been impeached, people who are on trial, people who have been implicated in the Zondo Commission, people who were linked to BBS issues, and perhaps others. So quality-wise, there are huge questions.
The President has to appoint a cabinet soon, and we all know how difficult this is proving to be. Does he need to sort of keep the Zondo testimony, if I can call it that, in mind? I mean, we may well find people against whom we heard evidence or against whom findings were made coming back in cabinet too.
I would certainly wish that he does that. I think it would be a huge signal if anybody who was implicated by Zondo didn't feature in cabinet. It would send the correct signal. But politics being what it is, I think it's very unlikely.
Nishan Bolton, thank you, Director of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. Well, all sorts of questions that come out of all of this. I'd be very interested in your view on 086 000 2032. I mean, lots of questions, of course, around what is going to happen in Parliament, how this is all going to play out, what message is being sent to voters, and as yet, who is going to be in cabinet and who isn't. I laugh because we're now a week without a cabinet today. You're with SFM 27 minutes after 7.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. This time tomorrow, we might know who will have won the Proteas in Afghanistan.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, the Proteas are having to navigate a maze of logistics. And that's as they gear up for this semi-final against Afghanistan tomorrow. Some travel challenges being thrown along the way. And Rob Walter, the coach of the Proteas, has spoken about the team's resilience.
Flying to Trinidad today in the hope that's where we'll stay. But obviously in that other group, there's quite a number of different things that can happen. So it might end up that we have to fly to Guyana. But that, if we did, it would probably sum up the whole trip to the West Indies so far, to be honest. So we'll just take it as it comes and go where we need to.
Rugby now, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has named a strong 39-man squad for the upcoming test against Ireland and Portugal. The squad features 4 uncapped players, including Sharks, Pepsi Buthelezi, and the Bulls' Johan Grobbelaar. Siya Kolisi is back despite a challenging season in France, and there is speculation about the captaincy. Key players like Cheslin Colby and Lucanio Am have returned from injury, while some, like Jasper Visser, await eligibility. The Springboks will kick off against Ireland at Loftus Versfeld with the squad set to gather in Pretoria for preparations. Soccer now, Austria advanced to the knockout stage of the European Championship as group winner with a 3-2 victory over the Netherlands. Austria topping Group D, and that's thanks to France drawing with Poland 1-1 in the other game. Now both France and the Netherlands are already assured of progress thanks to results in their previous games. Tennis action, Emma Raducanu brushed aside Sloane Stephens 6-4, 6-love to advance to the second round of the Eastbourne International in a battle of former US Open champions. And boxing, where the top South African boxer Sibangele Hadebe has moved up to number 8 on the world rankings after successfully defending her African Boxing Union title. Hadebe fought against Tanzanian boxer Jessica Mfinaga, who struggled to make it to the end of the first round and was defeated by a knockout. Speaking to SABC Sport, Smash, as she is affectionately known, is being honoured in the world of boxing.
Yes, we've gone up in world rankings. This fight took me straight to number 8 in the world, of which we are happy about it, but we just can't sit and be number 8 only. Now what's left is just we have to put in more work than before to get to number 7, to number 6, number 5, all the way up to number 2, number 1. So we can't just sit and do nothing. Only if you rest, then we go back to the drawing board again.
And finally, cycling, the Dane Jonas Vingegaard suffered a blow to his hopes of a third straight Tour de France title after US rider Sepp Kuss was ruled out of the race due to COVID-19. Climber Kuss won last year's Vuelta a España and has been replaced in the outfit by Dutch rider Bart Lemon. Vingegaard is likely to battle with fellow two-time winner in Slovenian Tadej Pogačar for the overall title. The tour begins in Florence, Italy, before ending in Nice, and that's on the 21st of July. More sport on Sunrise, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. More on the cricket in the next half hour. Big game coming up. You're there, SAFM, leading the conversation. Still no cabinet. 7:30.
EU News making headlines for this hour. Premier of the Northern Cape, Zamani Saul, has refuted claims that a decision has been made by the ANC provincially to protect the Afrikaner nationalist town of Orania. Speaking on these sidelines following his inaugural speech in the legislature, Saul says in their engagements with different political parties, the FF Plus came with 2 concept documents. In other news, the National Department of Health says it is concerned about the increase in the number of Mpox confirmed cases. It says countries like the DRC started with few numbers and are now ranging at 7,000 cases. And lastly, a US judge has freed the founder of WikiLeaks at the end of a court hearing in the Northern Mariana Islands, a remote US territory in the Pacific. I'll be back at 8 with more news. For SFM News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Again, just a reminder, it's a very busy Wednesday across the Gauteng highways. All your sort of major routes are under pressure, including the N3 from Germiston through Edenvale, the Mike 1 from Gold Reef City right through to about Oxford Road in the Parktown area, N1 Bayers Nordier up to Winnie Mandela, N1 south through Midrand from Brockfontein down to New Road. All your major highways are carrying extra volumes this morning and going slower as a result of that. Across into Durban, there's quite a backlog on the N2 North, traffic sitting from the M7 through towards Westwood Mall into the roadworks. The N3 toll concession confirming today's closure will go ahead. It's the N3 southbound between Balgowan and Lions River. That section towards Durban will be closed for some bridge works between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. So it's a 2-hour closure this morning. Truckers won't be allowed to sort of divert to the exits onto the alternative smaller routes. So trucking industry, just be aware of that. Travel Moy River through to Howick either before 10 or after 12 lunchtime. Cape Town, a crash in the central Kales River area. That's causing quite a backlog on Van Riebeek Road. 2 taxis involved there near Station Road. That's your junction with Van Riebeek. Highways into Cape Town not doing too badly this morning. The N1 though slow from N1 City through to about Marine Drive. There is a crash on the outbound side around Woodstock. Motorists may just be having a look at that. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
In Tarlingla, Chiller morning again. How are the markets?
Asian markets pretty mixed today. There's some optimism on the back of the tech rally that boosted equities. Investors in the meantime are preparing for the release of crucial US inflation data. This while the yen fell back towards levels that have stirred intervention warnings from Japanese officials. Now with that, the Japanese Nikkei gaining 1.3%. And China's Shanghai index is pretty flat, down 0.03%. Over in the US, futures are flat, somewhat range-bound as traders await key economic data. Back at home, sentiment really downbeat with the all-share falling 0.85% in yesterday's close. On the currency front, some weakness coming through, with traders, of course, digesting that downbeat employment print and eyeing who makes it into the 7th administration's cabinet. With that, the rand is sitting at 18.22 to the dollar.
And then formal employment falling in the first quarter again.
That's right, Stephen. The formal employment print is highlighting the severity of South Africa's jobs crisis. On a quarterly basis, the country lost about 67,000 jobs in the first quarter when compared to the fourth quarter. This was expected, as we usually see somewhat of an uptick in part-time employment in the retail sector, especially around the December period, which would then start to slow down in the first quarter. Now, this brings the level of employment in formal non-agricultural sector to 10.7 million on a yearly basis. So when comparing March 2023 and March 2024, about 74,000 jobs were shed. The industries that lost the most jobs include trade, community services, and mining. And we've seen this play out particularly in the mining sector, with big miners like Sibanye Stillwater and Anglo American Platinum moving forward with retrenchments. When looking at the overall print, you'll note that both part-time and full-time employment fell. And FNB senior economist Grootes On says this is very concerning and just highlights the deep downturn we have been seeing in the local economy.
And then psilocybin making its debut on the JSE.
So there's a new kid on the block. Stephen Medical Cannabis Group, psilocybin, made its debut on the JSE's AltX exchange yesterday. The group initially had plans to list in 2022, but that was pushed back to this year. Psilo is listed as a special purpose acquisition company. A SPAC is a unique entity listed on the JSE with the specific purpose to raise funds through an initial public offering and use those funds to acquire one or more established companies or assets. And that's what psilocybin aims to do, as it positions itself to pursue growth in the biotechnology and medical cannabis sectors through acquisitions. Now, the company is the first cannabis-focused SPAC to be listed on the AltX exchange, and it's the first company in South Africa to obtain licenses for both the cultivation and manufacturing of medical cannabis. Psilocybin produces and distributes a range of medical cannabis products, catering to both the local and international markets. Now, this move brings the total listings on the JSE to 282.
In Taoleng Lechela, thank you very much indeed. Do appreciate it. Back, of course, tomorrow. More business news through the day here on SAFM. 24 minutes to 8.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Let's start in Cape Town. Mfundo High. Zizi Kodwa. Go for it, Mfundo.
Morning, Stephen, and everything. Stephen, I really believe that, and I'm getting confident now that all politicians are hypocrites.
They're all what?
Hypocrites.
Oh, hypocrites, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, really, it doesn't make sense to anyone. It shows that ANC doesn't care about us; they only care about our votes. Not to say that I voted for them, but for their votes, yeah.
Sure.
And secondly, because I'm saying politicians, all the other political parties that are joining the government of national unity, they are all advancing the portfolios in the government. Is that not cadre deployment, which they've been crushing from the ANC in the past decades? It's definitely cadre deployment, Stephen. Whoever can try to explain in whatever form, it is cadre deployment.
Yeah, it goes in lots of directions, this thing, doesn't it? I mean, you've got to ask questions about what happens in the Western Cape, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Mfundo in Cape Town, thank you. Kabelo in KwaZulu-Natal. How's the Kabelo? The cabinet.
Morning, SG. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm well. Go for it.
Congratulations to the member of the MK party who has been sworn in yesterday.
Okay.
I hope they will use that opportunity to address the issues of the South African people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Stephen, I think there's something that is missing in the media platform. When the DA, what they did to the ANC or to the government, I told you from the first place when I called, I say this, a national government of unity is nonsense. We must change the terminology. You remember that. I'm still stand for that.
Yeah, sure.
Now, Stephen, how is that the government, they will demand so much positions, and when they demand the cabinet positions, they even demand to be not to be over, just to run it for themselves. It's like they want to run the parallel government. They want those things to be run by themselves. Now, what I'm seeing here, when the media is keeping quiet of what DA is doing, it's wrong. It should be condemned what the DA is doing, because it's a soft coup, which means they want to run the government in their own, not to be included in the government of South Africa.
I don't know if you can go that far, Kabelo. I mean, they're having a negotiation. People are now allowed to negotiate how they want.
It doesn't matter, Stephen, but the president, of which that guy that they elected, which is not my president, he has a right, constitutional right to nominate the cabinet. Whatever, Stephen, they signed behind the doors, it's not constitutionally.
No,
Stephen, what is constitutionally is a sitting of the parliament.
Yes.
So the consensus and the voting things and everything will be done in parliament, not in the boardroom.
Political parties are allowed to make agreements with each other. I'll prefer them to be in public, and they say they will. And if opposition parties don't like it, it would also be a soft coup for someone with only 40% of the vote to try and govern on their own. And
but Stephen, agree with me. It must be in line with the Constitution. Remember, when the MK party says, ANC, we can only talk with you if you remove Ramaphosa, then Mbalula said no-go area for Cyril, right? Now, the DA is demanding the position. They don't tell the DA to say no-go area. But how do you put Cyril? Because Cyril is was rejected by the people. And then you put him back as a president.
Well, no one got more votes than his party, Kabelo. I mean, he got rejected less than anyone else on your logic.
No.
Yeah.
Stephen, the man was rejected in 2021 local government election.
Well,
the man has been rejected by the people. So
was Jacob Zuma.
Cyril is not a legally president because was not voted by the majority of the people.
No, so Kabelo, I'm sorry, Kabelo. I think we have heard you, but that's not how this works. And come on, you know how this works, Kabelo. Seriously, it goes through the National Assembly, as we've all seen. 19 minutes to 8.
Big stories of the day. #SAFM Sunrise.
Lots of views of different people, of course, around different things happening at the moment. And one of the burning stories this morning, I think, is the fact that Zizi Kodwa is back in the National Assembly representing the ANC. Dr. Snuki Zikalala is president of the ANC Veterans League. Dr. Zikalala, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your listeners.
Thanks for agreeing to speak to us. I mean, how do you feel about Zizi Kodwa being back in the National Assembly?
Well, we are really disappointed as Veterans League that he's back in the National Assembly. We have written a letter to the SG, which I think we don't have to air them on the public broadcaster now until we get a positive response from the SG, saying that we are not happy that Zizi Kodwa is back in Parliament, and at the same time there was an adverse finding by the Integrity Commission himself and Frederick Frolick and the two others should not be on the parliamentary list. And of course, the top 7 of the last NEC, 2 last NECs, they recommended that it should not be, but the NEC felt that because they've not been taken to DC, we cannot just be removed from the list. And so, but now he was found, he was charged, and he got a bail and resigned from the ministerial position. And of course, for also taking part in ANC, in the NWC and NEC of the ANC. And so now he's back in Parliament, and so we are really disappointed that this has happened. And of course, it is slap on the renewal program of the African National Congress, because we are saying that we want a clean government and people want an ethical leadership and people who should be held accountable. And there he is back in Parliament. I think the matter will be resolved. We are just waiting to have a meeting with the SG as soon as the issues of negotiations have been completed, because I think that's where he is stuck currently. But we are saying that it's unacceptable.
I mean, we also have the Limpopo Finance MEC, Khabo Maai, who has findings against him from his time as Director General in the Department of International Relations. We heard from the Limpopo ANC fully backing him for the position. Are there questions there too?
Well, there are questions there. We did ask our provincial secretary, Sichaba Ngwane, to investigate the matter, and so we're waiting for an outcome from him. We said we must raise it at the PEC, the Provincial Executive Committee of Limpopo, that we totally reject and oppose his appointment currently, but the matter will be investigated, and our veterans in Limpopo are dealing with the matter. It's unacceptable. If he has not been criminally charged, but if he had to be taken to a DC, let it be done so. And so we believe in the rule of law, and our constitution also is aligned to the constitution of South Africa, that a person must first be charged, and once he's been charged, must take him to a DC, and the DC must deal with it. And so apparently he has not yet been charged by the African National Congress, and that should happen.
Dr. Snicky Zikalala, thanks very much indeed. President of the ANC Veterans League. Saretse on the line from Limpopo. Saretse, hi. You've been following this story. How do you feel about it?
Good morning, Stephen, and I'm going for it, as you used to say. Look, man, Stephen, I'm actually just disappointed about the ANC. You know, now I don't know which party to vote for, because actually there is no political party which is good, I'm telling you. I voted for them, but now I'm becoming disappointed. This man, Jimmy Matole, the spokesperson.
Yeah.
You asked him a question. You actually put it to him that Mahwai has got an award against him, and he was dismissed thereof because of that. But he doesn't say anything about it. The only thing he said is that now, he is in the process of applying for a review. You know, this thing happened, I think, in 2019, somewhere there. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure of the date, but it's an old matter when he was dismissed. And he is telling us about the move to review that. You see, the ANC is saying they are in renewal. And we start to have hope that, at least things will improve. And if you ask me, Stephen, like you said, do you think this is the cause of them declining in terms of the vote? And my answer is yes, because, on the grounds, we hear many people complaining about it, even elderly people complaining about this issue of corruption and so on. Thank you, Stephen.
No, Saretse in Limpopo, thank you. I mean, I think there are huge questions to ask here. And let's see how this plays out, because I don't think the story of Zizi Kodwa, or the story, in fact, of Khabo Maai in Limpopo, I don't think those stories are finished yet. 14 minutes to 8.
Agenda-setting conversations of the day.
Well, one of the things that's happened in the last couple of weeks is that the mayor of eThekwini, Mxolisi Kunda, resigned. He's gone now to the National Council of Provinces, which means that eThekwini does need a new mayor. As you know, the situation in eThekwini has been very difficult over the last couple of years. Suggestions that service delivery has really deteriorated. At the moment, I understand that the acting mayor is from the National Freedom Party, really quite a small party in eThekwini. Councillor Tabani Nyawose is the speaker in eThekwini from the ANC. Councillor Nyawose, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning to your listeners. Thank you for having us.
Sure. When are you going to have the election for a new mayor?
We are planning to have the election of the mayor before the end of July. Yesterday, I intended to include that item in the agenda of council. Unfortunately, my arrangement with the IEC and the chief magistrate in Durban, they were not available for tomorrow. They've requested me to find another date where they will be available. My office is kind of busy interacting with them to find another date where they will be available. But I can confirm to you that the ANC has submitted a name replacing Councillor Mqulusi Kaunda, our former mayor, the name of Mr. Cyril Kaba, a former MP. He is now a councillor in the eThekwini municipality. He is also a member of the executive committee. That was done yesterday, but we could not elect the mayor because of the reason that I've mentioned.
Sure, but it means you have to go for another month without a mayor. I mean, Cyril Kaba gave up a position of a portfolio committee chair for this, and now he has to wait another month as a councillor. Is it really going to take a full month?
I don't think that it will take the full month. That's why I'm saying once I've secured the date with IEC and the chief magistrate, I can even convene a special council meeting to elect the mayor. The reason why I decided to put the item in the yesterday council meeting is because the meeting was planned long time ago. When Councillor Kaunda resigned, when the ANC replaced him, I said because there is a council meeting coming, let me include this item in the agenda. I was trying to move with speed. But once everything is sorted, I can convene the council meeting in the mid of July, the special council meeting. If not, an ordinary council meeting that will be at the end of July, the item will also be included.
Councillor Nyawose, politics has changed in the last month in South Africa, and particularly in KwaZulu-Natal. I'm sure you've noticed that. And it's difficult to know what's going to happen in local government. But let me put the question to you like this. Are you as the, and I know you're from the ANC, but you're speaking to me as speaker, do you believe that the ANC has the support in the Council of eThekwini to actually elect Mr. Kaba as mayor? I mean, you're going to have to do a deal with other political parties. Maybe the DA will support you in eThekwini. Who knows?
When Councillor Kaunda was a mayor, council used to approve number of report or decisions of council. Political parties in the eThekwini council, they do engage among themselves on different matters. Even the election of the new mayor, I don't see any problem because I know that Whippo parties, they've got their own platform where they engage. Leaders of political parties, they do engage. When the time comes to elect the mayor, I'm confident political parties will agree.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Tabani Nyawose is the speaker in the eThekwini Metro Municipality. 10 minutes to 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretty heavy traffic around Joburg's Crown Interchange. There's big backlogs on the Mike one from Gold Reef City right through to about Oxford Road in Parktown, and then a crash coming into the Crown on the M2 westbound, so from Joe Slovo Drive up towards the Mike one. There's some extra delays there. The N3 between Bedfordview and Edenvale, very heavy getting up through Galuli's, delays as far as Modderfontein Road, and a big truck crash in on the R21 this morning, early hours this morning. I believe this might be a crime scene actually, as well as a truck crash, so there's some real heavy pressure on the 21 passing the airport up towards Ford Trekker Road. You'll find the Ford Trekker Road off-ramp being restricted, if not closed as well. Crossing to Durban, the M2 running north stays pretty heavily backed up through Spaghetti Junction up towards Westwood Mall. It is starting to ease, but it's still very busy. You're on your way off the south coast up towards flight connections at King Shaka. Make sure you got some time to get through there. And Cape Town, the N1 into town is busy this morning from sort of N1 City, Goodwood, Parow area, all the way through to Woodstock. It's a volume of traffic that's having a look at a crash on the outbound side. The crash on the outbound is not really causing any major disruption leaving the city, but if you're going in, it's that on-looking factor in the big volume, slowing things towards Lower Church Street. Also, a couple of taxis have collided in the heart of Kales River this morning on Van Riebeek Road near Station Road, and that's causing quite big backlogs in both directions. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Get ready for an exciting show. Believe it, family. It's a big day for 25K. In this brand new show, join us as we follow couples across South Africa on their journey to create their dream wedding for only 25K.
Our biggest hope is that everything fits in the budget of 25K.
There were many things that we had to do in 3 days' time.
Will share in their disappointment.
It's also stress. Somebody let me down early this morning.
It's a very expensive trip. I don't know how we're going to afford to fly this trip.
And celebrate their triumphs.
I always dreamed of this day, but it will
Thank you to everyone that made this day.
A big day for 25K starts the 9th of June, Sunday, 7:30 p.m. only on SABC2.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Life gets too busy and SABC Sport gets it. That's why we're bringing you Final Analysis, the sole destination to fill you in on all sport action that goes down every weekend. This is a premium Sunday night wrap-up show, giving match highlights, final scores, post-game reactions, expert analysis, and sport news weekend roundup of the local and international arena. Catch Final Analysis every Sunday at 9:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Attention tourism entrepreneurs, your success starts here. The Tourism Equity Fund is your gateway to growth. Whether you're looking to expand or innovate, call CIFA at 012-748-9600 or visit www.cifa.org.za. CIFA is a registered credit provider. Terms and conditions apply.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
6 minutes to 8 the time. Good morning. Nice to have you along with us. You know the number 086 000 2032. Let's stop looking in the cupboard for our cabinet. Did I get that right? And for a moment, focus on something else. I'm talking, of course, about the cricket. Tomorrow, by this time, we should know if we have beaten Afghanistan in the T20 World Cup semi-finals. That's after yesterday's quite thrilling match. Aslam Kota, cricket commentator, sports documentary producer for SuperSport TV as well. Aslam, good morning. Nice to chat again.
Thank you very much. I'll start by just saying something very quickly, Stephen.
Yeah.
That looking at the South African trophy cabinet, it's very empty. So let's just hope that they're going to fill it soon.
There's lots of cabinets to be filled. Okay.
Yeah.
So the sort of vibe in the team at the moment, it's been interesting. I must admit, I'm sort of bored with T20. I think you know that. Suddenly it's getting quite exciting. We're into the semi-finals. I don't think we've ever been there we haven't been there for a very long time. The point is something seems to be going right in our camp.
Yes, I mean, the fact that you keep winning in matches which you look like you're going to lose, and all of them are nail-biters, apart from one very convincing win. 7 out of 7 it was for South Africa, and I'm sure that that's a happy camp. The fact that the decision-making has been very good from the time they selected the team, and then gone across and making some bold selections, playing on a surface that really tested all of the teams. I mean, we've become so accustomed to high scores, smash, wallop, and bang, that this World Cup tournament has added another dimension to the abbreviated format. I mean, low scores and still high drama. So I must say it's been pretty fantastic. And just to think about this, when we're watching these T20s happening all over the world, the franchise tournaments as well, and previous World Cups, there have been tons of hundreds. Well, there's been absolutely none in this entire tournament, which gives you an indication how this one's actually panning out. And that's why I think it has made this format very interesting and this World Cup very, very exciting.
Has the balance of power shifted between the bowlers and the batters? It does that in cricket over the years. Or is it really just about the pitches? And if it's just the pitches, that also means it's a bit of a lottery.
Well, I mean, absolutely right. And the thing is, it's all about adjusting. You'll hear players talk about adjusting in the middle. I mean, what has surprised me, especially in the tournament happening in the United States, or the matches in the United States, is that you generally, we are of the knowledge that when teams play T20 cricket, the pitch really doesn't change in nature very much. But I must say that this has been one of the aspects that has come as a big surprise, that in a 40-over challenge, that this is what will happen. But that's happened, and I think the adjustment has been for both bowlers and batters. So those who have come off well, hats off to them. But you will see that at last there's been a tournament where a lot of the bowlers have stood out. And that, for me, has made this tournament very exciting.
To beat Afghanistan tomorrow, I mean, someone's going to remind me that one Australian batter beat Afghanistan in the one-day international World Cup. Not really fair. But, I mean, certainly Afghanistan have come up through the ranks. They come from a very difficult society. How difficult are they to beat?
Well, the thing is, I mean, talk about South Africa 7 out of 7. The fact that they've won, they've played 7 and won 5 and only lost to the West Indies and India on their way to the semi-final berth, I can imagine that must also be a very happy camp. And, it's a nation in glory. Afghanistan, with a poor infrastructure, one that's still growing. All the money that they have, that comes from the ICC. I mean, you talk about those struggles, the fact that they played early part of their matches I think the early part of the 2000s in Pakistan, and slowly things happening there. So that particular win against Bangladesh was which they won by 8 runs, was a do or die. It was a decider, and to come through that in a low-scoring match again, I'm sure that their confidence is riding high, and I'm almost certain, and I'm more than certain, that South Africa will not take them lightly.
Obviously difficult to predict a T20 match. I'm not going to ask you. Well, probably am going to ask you for that, Aslam. But I mean, the game tomorrow, the pitch could be an important factor. As I understand it, we also don't quite yet know where we will play.
Well, the thing is, I mean, teams generally, what has happened in this tournament as well is that you get teams who prefer to chase the score. You get others who want to actually bat first. And that has been the quandary for most of the teams, that by the time they got to the middle of the tournament, Stephen, it was pretty obvious that teams really didn't know what they wanted to do. And you had to fight, and you had to get in there and stay abreast of the situation. And that's where South Africa have actually been very, very impressive. So I do believe that the toss is going to be important, because it is a semi-final. And as the cliche goes, scoreboard pressure is very, very different when it comes to these crunch matches.
Aslam Kota, really appreciate the time. Thank you. Cricket commentator, sports documentary producer for SuperSport TV as well. You're with SFM leading the conversation. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43517 now.
Top stories for this hour. No decision made on Oranje according to the Northern Cape Premier. Maintenance work continues on the Cape Flats Water Network. Good morning, I'm Eva Chipa. Premier of the Northern Cape Zamani Saul has refuted claims that a decision has been made by the ANC provincially to protect the Afrikaner nationalist town of Oranje. Speaking on the sidelines following his inaugural speech in the legislature, Saul says in their engagements with different political parties, the FF Plus came with 2 concept documents. One focuses on the formulation of or constitution of the provincial government, and the second document is about the status and future developments in Oranje. He says these are just discussion documents and not decisions.
Some of the issues which they are suggesting in the first concept document on the constitution of the provincial government, Freedom Front Plus is quite modest and it's quite reasonable, and we are going to ensure that those things happen. And one of those things is that they are a single member who's a member of the provincial legislature becomes the chairperson of the portfolio committee on Cogstar. But the second concept document raises a whole lot of issues, and we took that document to the national negotiation team, and the national negotiation team has got a preliminary response on that document, which we shared with the Freedom Front, but we've not taken any decision in the Northern Cape to protect Orania.
The National Department of Health says it is concerned about the increase in the number of mpox cases confirmed. It says countries like the DRC started with a few cases and are now ranging at 7,000. Yesterday, the department confirmed another mpox-related death, bringing the total number of deaths to 3 and the total number of recorded cases in the country to 16. Department spokesperson Foster Mohal.
What we have identified is that is putting most of this at a higher risk is that most of them are living with other underlying conditions like your HIV, TB, and diabetes. So meaning that the immune system is somehow compromised. That's why some of them, they get hospitalized for a longer time. So hence we say anyone who's taking treatment for any other health condition, they need to adhere to that treatment, which will assist them to boost the immune system against diseases like mpox or flu.
The City of Cape Town's Water and Sanitation Department says the maintenance work on the water infrastructure on the Cape Flats that left many residents without water for the past 2 days is in the final stretch. 28 areas were affected during the maintenance work. MMC for Water and Sanitation, Zahid Badruddin, says many residents in various affected areas had water after 9 o'clock last night.
We are in the final stages of our 72-hour proactive maintenance along the Cape Flats network, and our teams have made excellent progress. 4 out of 6 valves have already been replaced. The remaining 2 valves, unfortunately, are a little bit delayed. All equipment is on site. Teams are ready to install those particular valves.
SASSA grant beneficiaries in rural areas of the Eastern Cape are calling for the return of SASSA pay points in their areas. The closure of the pay points has left beneficiaries without a way to access their grants. They say they've been forced to spend money to travel to nearby towns or to ask relatives to withdraw the money for them. SASSA closed the pay points due to the dwindling number of users and to improve security. In other news, a truck has jackknifed and is blocking both lanes on the N10 road, 28 kilometers out of Ngoba towards Cookhouse in the Eastern Cape. The Department of Transport has advised motorists to avoid that road until further notice, as the hazard of the truck is further exacerbated by poor visibility due to the heavy mist. Traffic law enforcement officers are on the scene diverting traffic. And lastly, looking further afield, a US judge has freed the founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange. Assange had been pursued by US prosecutors for leaking a vast amount of secret US military information, but entered a plea deal. The BBC's Jonathan Head has the details.
This is a US court, but it is not on the continent of the United States. Julian Assange made it clear he was very uncomfortable going back to the US. He clearly still has a great deal of mistrust. Of course, what is interesting is how divisive he still is. There are still so many people who passionately believe what he did was right and necessary, and there were some really horrible things that he did expose, and many others who say this is so damaging to national security and to diplomacy. So many private conversations were leaked that in fact what he did was wrong, and I think that division will outlast this trial and probably outlast Julian Assange.
Recapping the top story for this hour, Premier of the Northern Cape Zamani Saul has refuted claims that a decision has been made by the ANC provincially to protect the Afrikaner nationalist town of Orania. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour for SFM News. I'm Eva Chipa.
Eva, thank you. That's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and R1 million liability cover, all covered by Insurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CARP to 43517. Did you know that with Insurance Essential, valid claims are paid out in cash? Let me say that again. Insurance Essential pays your car insurance claim in cash. That's cash. paid into your bank account that you can use to repair your car at any panel beater of your choice. Outsurance Essential for cars older than 5 years, not financed and valued at under 125,000 Rand. SMS car to 43187 for a quote. That's car to 43187. SMS now. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, cricket, Proteas coach Rob Walter praising Aiden Markram's captaincy ahead of the T20 World Cup semi-final showdown against Afghanistan. And in soccer action, Bafana to compete for their 6th COSAFA Cup title against Mozambique tonight. All this and more just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy again now at the R21 passing the airport. It's the truck crash that we've been reporting. A truck coming off the R21 South, across and through the barriers, across the R21 South, losing its load and ending up blocking the R21 North ramp to Four Trekker. So the R21 main carriageway and the R21 North off-ramp to Four Trekker closed. There's some really heavy pressure in that area if you're heading passing the airport towards Pretoria. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through it. I believe it's a crime scene incident as well, so it'll probably take a bit longer than a normal crash to clear up. Joburg staying there. The Mike 1 South, a crash at Houghton Drive, so very slow coming through from Melrose on your way to Joburg, and the onlookers just extending delays from Boysons right through to that sort of Melrose area as well. N3 North Limbro Park up towards Buccleuch interchange is very heavy as well of this out. Durban, some pressure leaving the Pinetown area. The M13 is quite slow. St John's Avenue down towards the Stapleton Road exit region. And Cape Town, a crash on 35th Avenue at Francie Fun Sale. If you're driving that Elsie's River area, that's quite slow. And a big taxi crash blocking a section of Kales River's Van Riebeeck Road, central Kales River near Station Road, and that's causing some diversion pressures in the area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
8 after 8, good morning. You're with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Plenty to come. We'll talk about how you can use radiation to protect rhinoceroses. It's literally about something to do with their horn. And I realize that, the name radioactive rhinos probably going to be a good name for a band at some point. But we'll discuss radioactive rhinos in the next few moments. Don't forget your mediated conversation in a little while about stock theft as well. Really a major problem in KwaZulu-Natal. We'll hear from the police there. We'll hear from farmers there. We'll hear as well from Agri-SA. So looking forward to that conversation. A lot to come. You know the number, 086 000 2032. So many different things, so many questions around our lack of a cabinet at the moment. Still waiting to see what's going to happen there. Questions also around Zizi Kodwa, around Dr. John Hlophe, around others sworn in as MPs yesterday in Parliament. Good morning, it's 9 after 8.
Are you ready to take your brand to a whole new level? Have you ever thought about how big companies use strong PR to get more people to know about their brands? The Allure Group presents the inaugural Building a Brand Through PR Masterclass. Join us on Wednesday, July 3rd from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the DP World Wonders Stadium in Johannesburg. Learn from 12 industry experts as they share their case studies and personal testimonies that will transform your approach to brand building. Visit www.prmasterclass.co.za to get your tickets. Only 650 rands for an in-person experience, or join us virtually for just 350 rands. Don't miss this chance to master the art of PR and take your brand to the next level. Building a brand through PR Masterclass, powered by Independent Media.
Durban is open for business and investment. A large delegation from the United States of America, including captains of industry, business, investors, finances, decision makers, and high-profile leaders will attend the 2024 Resurgence Durban Conference to explore and maximize investment opportunities in Durban. Be part of the Resurgence Durban Conference taking place at the Durban ICC from the 17th to the 21st of July 2024. Durban is forging ahead with its plan of action that is aimed at boosting trade and investments within South Africa, the African continent, and the rest of the world. Businesses must register now to exhibit at the conference. Closing date is the 30th of June 2024. To register for the Resurgence Durban Conference and for more information, visit www.resurgenceconference.org.
Delve into the intense personal journeys of individuals whose bad choices have led to severe consequences. Where each episode unpacks these transformative stories told through raw, first-hand experiences of those who live them. It's a hard-hitting and emotional exploration of real-life struggles, showcasing the heavy price of redemption. Channel your best reality with My Secret Enemy, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
11 after 8. Good morning. Let's go to the Free State. Uncle Joa. Uncle Joa, hi. You want to talk about a Free State hospital and the Free State Health MEC. What happened?
Yes, thank you very much, SG. SG, before I get to the point, man, I just want to clarify this issue that I heard last week when I was listening to Kathy's show. One of the callers called in and was complaining that you in this program, you guys are blocking the people who have different views than what you express on the view, and they were alleging that because of that at times they are blocked, that their calls are blocked, that they cannot go through.
Yeah.
I don't think that is fair, and that is absolutely not correct. Because look, your show is highly contested because it has the ability to reach all the people in the country and outside. And I don't think that it is correct for people to allege that, their calls are blocked because they are expressing different views. It's not correct and it's not fair. We cannot expect as listeners to be on the radio every day.
Yeah.
There are lots of people that listen to SAFM, particularly these shows like your show. But on the issue that I'm calling on about, firstly, let me congratulate, Ndate Mahlatsi for being appointed as the MEC of Health in Free State.
Yeah.
And the Premier Makwin. What actually surprised me, SG, is because there was a visit that the Premier went to go and do in Pilunomi Hospital on Sunday. And the Premier was disgusted by the manner or the condition on which the hospital is in. But what I did not understand is that the Premier has been part of the provincial legislature in the past, has been sitting in the structure of the ANC, and then MEC Mahlatsi has also been in COSATU, I know, and COSATU affiliates, like Dinosa and NUMSA, have been part of this discussion, raising all the issues. Now, for them to go there and appear as if, they were not expecting that, it actually showed me that these people are not using these public facilities that we are using. That is why they were surprised,
So what you're saying, they shouldn't have been shocked. They should have known.
They should have known. It's like changing that show and going into another show, and when you get there, you are saying, hey, I didn't expect to come and see what I'm seeing here, as if it's a person that is completely new into the environment.
Yeah.
ANC has been in the leadership all this year, since 1994 in the province, and they've been having MECs like Dr. Malakwani, Montensiu, and all those people. They've been there from ANC.
Sure.
It can't be something that is new to the Premier.
Yeah, Uncle Joe, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, I think your point is correct. Uncle Joe's on the line from the Free State. You do see leaders going in and being shocked. How can they be shocked? Do they not know what people are going through? 14 after 8.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
Well, one of the most important questions of the moment is how to help small businesses get going and employing people. And a big part of that, of course, is around banking. Simone Cooper is the head of business and commercial banking for Standard Bank South Africa. Simone, good morning, and thanks for your time.
Good morning, Stephen. Thank you very much.
We've seen digital technology really changing the way that banks work, changing the way we interface with our banks. How's that sort of changed the needs or the banking needs and behaviors of small and medium enterprises?
So what we've seen over the past couple of years is that banks and financial service providers have ramped up their technology capabilities and what they offer to small businesses massively. So you can do banking transactions electronically, you can do the 24/7, you're able to open a number of accounts digitally. So all financial institutions are really trying to make it easier and simpler for SMEs to bank. But having said that, SMEs still require that human interface and human interaction. In our experience, SMEs often say that they want to do business with other people, and so at times they require guidance, they have to address complex financial needs, they need assistance with their strategic planning, and so the digital pieces which have transformed the landscape, but it's also important to make sure that you can have somebody to talk to when you need to do so.
I mean, I think a lot of banking is just an app now. It's all about the app, you know. That's how you sort of interact with your bank. Why is a personal relationship still important for SMEs?
So as I said, business people want to do business with other people. So yes, they want the convenience of using an app or mobile technology to be able to do their banking. That would be your payments, your basic types of banking requirements. But then there are times that they need to talk to somebody. So SMEs are actually very complex. Unlike a typical retail customer, they would require the ability to have to talk to somebody for various types of funding needs. In the retail world, it's often easy to do that digitally, and the needs are quite homogenous across the base. In the SME environment, these needs are not homogenous. You've got SMEs involved in various different sectors, and their needs become very complex quite quickly. And for that reason, they need to talk to someone, be able to interact with someone, and not only have the digital side of it.
And I mean, it's not just financial services, is it? Are there types of non-financial support that help SMEs?
Absolutely. So SMEs need help from business development support providers, from mentors, from accounting institutions, from other experts within the industry. It's very difficult for an SME. They are the chief of everything within their business. They don't have an HR consultant necessarily, somebody to do their tax. So they need assistance from a host of other people that are not necessarily employed in their business.
And I mean, aspiring entrepreneurs, people who are trying to run companies, a very hard thing to do. Everyone I've spoken to has always said that getting enough capital is the major problem. I mean, what advice do you give them? They need to work with someone. They need money from a bank. What's your advice to them?
So in terms of the advice for SMEs is that it's always important to engage with your financier around what you're looking for and what you require. Let your financier help guide you in terms of the information that's required. Generally, a lot of the issues that we see within the industry is that SMEs are not able to package the information that they need to be able to apply for finance. So it's very important to understand what are the requirements and then to work with various players within the market to be able to do that. So whether that is your accountant, your tax advisor, whoever it might be, to put that information together and work with a financial institution. And that's why I go back to the fact that it's really important to have that relationship management touch, that high touch from a bank to be able to understand what you require, because it's difficult to navigate this environment.
Simone Cooper, thank you so much. Head of Business and Commercial Banking for Standard Bank, South Africa.
There's listening to the news. Then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
19 minutes after 8 the time. Well, you know the number 086-000-2032. Lots to talk about this morning, of course, with various issues around the cabinet, around all of the other things that are happening as well. And then we'll be talking about stock theft. Some calls coming through about that yesterday because of how difficult the situation around stock theft is and how much money it can actually cost people. We'll be talking about that from 8:30 this morning. I think very important. We are actually also looking at perhaps a mediated conversation on Mpox tomorrow as well. I do think that might be important. So yeah, we'll have a look at that as well. There are various things, of course, going on at the moment and various issues that we all need to talk about. You're there, SAFM, 20 minutes after 8.
Lindelani ladies want to change gears against reigning champs to relocate from the danger zone. However, Banyana Style say they will conquer the game and grab the vital 3 points. Queen meets Clonco. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the Mzansi Queens on the pitch. Lindelani Ladies FC versus Mamelodi Sundowns Ladies FC on Sunday 30 June at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC Sports on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Am I left or right-brained? I'm leaning right. Right? However, I do have some left-brain tendencies. Perhaps I'm left-brained with right-brain tendencies. Am I overthinking this? I don't want to be caught underthinking it. Or maybe I'm overthinking about underthinking the overthinking. Which am I?
At RMB, the simple answer is both. When you need a thoughtful solution for financial complexity that doesn't make you choose, there are only 3 letters you need to know. RMB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The Science of Life on SAFM.
21 minutes after 8. Well, for many years you'll have heard of all sorts of efforts to stop the poaching of rhinos. We've had fences, we've had, in some cases, rhinos getting their own, literally, bodyguards, people following them around with guns. We've had investigations. People have tried the economic method of basically trying to stop the market in the Far East. All sorts of suggestions to try and stop rhino trafficking. This is the first time I've heard a suggestion that radiation, literally radiation, may be used to help stop rhino trafficking. Professor James Larkin is from Wits University's Radiation and Health Physics Department. Professor Larkin, good morning.
Good morning. Apologies if the sound is bad. I'm driving out to go and work on more rhino.
Okay, I hope you're not the one doing the driving. This is all about something called radioisotopes. How are you using radiation to help rhinos?
Well, we're putting small quantities of radioactive material into the horn of rhinos, so people to think that they don't actually want to own anything that's radioactive. Research shows that people radically overestimate the effects of any radiation, and we're using that natural fear of radioactivity to devalue the rhino horn. But at the same time, the presence of that activity in the horn makes the horns significantly easier to detect as they're moved across international borders. A lot of these international borders have installed radiation monitors and things like that. So not only are we making it less desirable, we're making it significantly easier to track as well.
Okay, but how would people know that there's radiation in the rhino, in the horn?
At the moment, we don't particularly want them to know. We'll put signs up around game farms and things.
I'm sorry, Professor, we actually can't hear you. What we'll try and do is when you come back tomorrow, we'll try and reschedule this interview. Professor James Larkin is from Wits University's Radiation and Health Physics Unit.
At SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
Let's go to Malanga in Johannesburg. Malanga, hi. Traditional leaders in land. Hot topic at the moment.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Go for it.
It's great to listen to you. I was saying here, you know, the traditional leaders, I think it's about time that they come in as traditional leaders, not as individuals in the political parties, so that they can go there and talk about land, claim the land. The land belongs to the traditional leaders. And anyone who has a claim over the land must talk to the traditional leaders. And traditional leaders must form part of government as leaders.
So Malanga, I hear you. Our constitution says all are equal before the law. Should they have more power than an ordinary person?
No, they shouldn't have more powers, but they should have equal powers with the government. It looks like at the moment the traditional leaders are under the government. They have no power. They have no say in the constitution or anything that recognizes them as leaders in the communities or in the communal places where they live or they live.
So, I mean, they would then basically be able to decide where people live and where they can't live.
I think that demarcation must be done in conjunction with the government because, I mean, you can't live in the wetland. So traditional leaders are also human beings. They have brains. Some of them are educated. So they can dictate where people can live. They can say, here, you can live here. Anyone can come to South Africa. If you were coming from Europe and coming to South Africa, not in that form that they came in, but coming in and said, we're seeking land, you go to the traditional leader and say, we seek land, and then they find out about you, whether you are a person in good standing, then they give you the land. That's it.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Malanga. I think this argument is going to go in lots of different directions. All right, Malanga on the line from Johannesburg. Thank you. It's interesting. I mean, in some cases, we've seen parties get quite a lot of support for this idea. There's one called SARCO, which was a sort of royalist party. They got fewer than 10,000 votes in the elections. They basically campaigned just on that, on the issue of traditional leaders in land. But I don't know if it'll happen. Very quickly, Crispin on the line from Durban. Crispin, hi, the Government of National Unity. Go for it.
Yeah, a couple of things, Stephen. The first is that not everyone who says they're progressive is actually progressive. I mean, there are real progressives in the country. They're inside the ANC, they're in various other parties. But some of the ideas are, frankly, kind of right-wing and reactionary. And I just heard that, the traditional leaders own the land. Hold on. People own the land. And that clearly divides progressives from people who are just reactionary. Traditional leaders never have owned land historically. People owned the land. Their representative was the traditional leader in traditional societies. But the idea of a dominant person, an autocrat, who owns the land and then has people who have to pay him or report to him, I mean, that is a fundamental issue that is causing deep hardship in this province, which is KZN. But the other point is, I thought, people like the PA say that we need the police or Home Affairs as our ministry. I mean, those are the two portfolios they really should not have because of their intense xenophobia. And the approach to policing, which seems to, get out there and crush people. We've had enough of that already, frankly.
All right.
Where I do think the DA really has a good claim, on the Home Affairs, their policy on migration is the most sane of all of the parties. Okay. But I don't think they should be in foreign affairs at all because they are so locked into a particular view of the world which really does not represent South Africans at all.
All right, Crispin, I'm so sorry. We have heard you, but we are going to have to leave it there. Thank you. 28 minutes after 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. Rob Walters praising Aiden Makram.
Yes, David, it's like having a cricket version of Madiba in the change room. Everyone's inspired. Now, this is the confidence that the Proteas coach Rob Walter has in his squad ahead of the T20 World Cup semi-final against Afghanistan. Despite their unbeaten run, Coach Walter commending Markram's leadership, highlighting his respect within the change room and his strategic acumen, especially in defending low scores.
He brings a real competitive edge to the team. I think everyone who watches him play knows that he's competing 100%. He's attached to that game massively, so which is great. But he's also, very, very calm in the change room, very level-headed. So, from a leadership point of view, those are obviously great qualities to have.
The Proteas will face Afghanistan tomorrow at 2:30 a.m. Soccer now, Bafana will be bidding for their 6th COSAFA Cup title. They lock horns with Mozambique at the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium tonight, 6 p.m. Assistant coach Helman Mkalele will oversee the team as Hugo Bruges is not available. South Africa will field an inexperienced squad aimed at grooming younger talents for the senior side. Goalkeeper Olwetu Mzimela and forward Tabang Sibanyone are amongst the promising stars to watch. Tune in to SABC Sport and SABC 1 for live coverage of the match. Meanwhile, Lautaro Martinez scored off a rebound in the 88th minute, giving the defending champions Argentina and Little Messi a 1-0 victory over Chile, and that's a guaranteed berth in the Copa America quarterfinals. And finally, legendary Olympian Michael Phelps has criticized the World Anti-Doping Agency for its inconsistent enforcement for anti-doping rules. Phelps testified before the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigation, highlighting frustrations amongst clean athletes and concerns over the future of fair competition.
While competing at the highest levels, I witnessed firsthand the pervasive uncertainty and the suspicion surrounding doping. The hardest part was seeing athletes achieve seemingly impossible feats, knowing the immense effort and sacrifices required to reach these heights cleanly.
Mr. Phelps, has the problem of doping in sports been cleaned up, where you can tell your sons that athletic competitions are fair and clean of cheating?
No.
And that's where we leave sport on Sunrise. We'll bring you more on SFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thanks very much indeed. In a moment, more on stock theft. You're with SFM leading the conversation, 8:30.
In your news making headlines for this hour, the MK party says it will today picket outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court in KwaZulu-Natal. This comes in response to the arrest of the Independent Electoral Commission's area manager in Pietermaritzburg, who is suspected of tampering with ballot papers in the recent national elections. In other news, Premier of the Northern Cape, Zamani Saul, has refuted claims that a decision has been made by the ANC provincially to protect the Afrikaner nationalist town of Oranje. And lastly, Agri Western Cape says the agriculture sector in the province has suffered damage to infrastructure and loss of harvests to the value of around 4 billion rand in the last 12 months alone. I'll be back at 9 with more news. For SFM News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, the R21 passing the airport on your way towards Pretoria and Tembisa stays heavy. It's a truck crash, but I understand it may well be a crime scene as well. So the R21 up to 4 Trekker Road likely to remain restricted just a little bit longer, perhaps than what a normal crash would take to clear. So very heavy. In fact, the queue starts back at the R24 Albertina Sisulu Highway split. From there, as you get onto the R21, it's heavy. A lot of traffic diverting away from that and just jamming up some local routes, particularly Pretoria Road through the central Kempton Park area. A little crash earlier this morning on the Mike 1 down at Parktown. It's left some traffic slow from Santon as you make your way down through Melrose. It is recovering rather than getting worse, but there is some traffic going slow there. The N1 between Old Joburg Road and New Road on the run through Midrand, busy again today. Durban, a lot of congestion around the Umbilo, Bayhead and Rossborough area. There's a terrific amount of roadworks that are going in on routes like parts of South Coast Road and Maiden Road and Bayhead Road as well. And that with the truck traffic. So routes this morning, northbound on Umbilo, routes like Sydney Road, the Bayhead Road, it really is heavily backed up. If you're not driving a truck into that area, probably a good idea to try and avoid it. And Cape Town, a heavy backlog on Marine Drive coming in through Parton Island down towards the N1, and a crash at the top of Wynberg Hill, just slowing traffic on the M3 arriving into the Bishop's Court area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Youth Month Takeover. SAFM invites young people between the ages of 18 to 35 to take over the airwaves this Youth Month. All you have to do is send a WhatsApp voice note or text message to 061 410 4107 or email info@safm.co.za. Tell us which show you'd like to co-host and what the 2 compelling issues facing our 30 years of democracy are, and we could be calling you. Terms and conditions apply.
Mediated conversation on SAFM.
26 minutes now to 9 the time. Good morning. Well, more evidence beginning to emerge that the incidence of stock theft in some parts of the country may be rising again. In KwaZulu-Natal, farmers there say they believe their cattle, goats and sheep are being stolen and slaughtered and then being sold to be eaten in shishinyamas in the province. You can imagine how difficult this is for a farmer. You wake up one morning and find that several animals have been stolen. It can actually drive you to bankruptcy. And yet, this is also a very difficult crime to fight against. You have to prove that someone stole your animals. The animal has often been slaughtered and is now meat. You can't prove where that meat came from. So then, what can be done to help people in this situation, and how bad is it? First this morning, you'll hear from Donatusi Dlamini, the Secretary-General of the KwaZulu-Natal African Farmers Association of South Africa. Then, Brigadier J. Naiker is the police spokesperson for the SAPS in KwaZulu-Natal. And finally, Freddie van Tonder is the head of the security desk for the KwaZulu-Natal Agricultural Union. We start then with Donatusi Dlamini. He's the Secretary-General of the KwaZulu-Natal African Farmers Association of South Africa. I spoke to him yesterday and asked him how bad the problem was.
Let me say thank you to SAFM for interviewing us. Because I think it's not going to be just the interview, but it's going to come with the interest at the end of the day. because here in KZN we are in trouble for the stock theft of livestock, sheep, even goats, even very high, even for the goats. But especially for the cattle stock theft, you know, those the economy is a syndicate. Because the major cause of this stock theft is the shisanyama that is all over in KZN. And the thing of stock theft is even destroying the economy of discount.
Sure. So how do you know? I mean, do you know who's behind this? Where they take the animals? How this business, this theft, this crime is working?
Yeah, especially here in South Africa, the law it doesn't take its direction. Because what is the big cause of this is the people that, especially those people that coming from outside the country, the foreigners. Because if you go all the Shisanyama, it's for those people who are the foreigners. And you are begging the police to take serious of those Shisanyama. Because it used to be operational of everything. But you never saw operational of the stock theft going door to door of those Shisanyama. To tell who's running the Shisanyama. Does that Shisanyama, where does they get the meat? It's because they're not buying from the butcheries those meat. They're stealing our cattle. And the other thing that makes us as the farmers to cry here in KZN is because even the law doesn't take serious the thing of stock theft. You see, because they're supposed to take it serious because it's very bad.
And Don Tusi, I mean, do you try and investigate yourself? I mean, if someone's cows are stolen, do they go and look for them? I mean, you know, I presume, I mean, this is a huge problem. Do they try and, I mean, do they know exactly how it ends up in the Shisanyama? Do you find maybe where the animal's been slaughtered, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we did. You know, they're killing in the mountain. If you find the nyama from the Shisanyama, you find the meat is full of grass. You see, it's not the proper meat. They're killing from the mountain, and they came here. They load, especially they use it. You know, like I'm gonna make an example. I'm here in Kimpen. So most of them is going to Durban in Pietermaritzburg. You find the quantum. They loading on the Trotter quantum. All the meat. Then they travel from here where I'm staying in Kimpen to Durban, from Bulwa to Durban, from Sweet Daughters, all over. They're using the Georgia Quantum to transport those meat. And when you go there, you find the meat. You can see the difference of the meat that come from the butchery. And this one, so is not the proper meat that came from the butchery. They kill it maybe from the mountain because it's full of grass. This meat. It happened many times, but when you try to deal with that, they say you can't take the law on your own hands. So that is why we are begging the government to come and help us as the farmers. You see, and even here in KZN, we're having a problem with the previous government because we are trying many times to try to talk with the previous government, but they didn't take care of us. Now we are begging the new government to please take care of the farmers because they're struggling with farming here in KZN, because it seems there is no one who bothers themselves with the farming, with the farmers in KZN.
And Donald Tusi, the police, do they do nothing? Is there a stock theft unit in KZN?
Can you beg your pardon?
Is there a specialist police unit in KwaZulu-Natal that deals with this, a stock theft unit?
They're not taking this thing serious. It's bad. If you can come, it's bad. Like, you know, yesterday there was a farmer who was crying. They stole maybe more than 45 goats yesterday only.
Sure.
Yes, we don't know how many days we don't know. Each and every day, farmers lose their livestock. And if you can see, there's no job here. So it's the farmers, it's the farming that we rely on it, especially here in KZN. And here in KZN, if you can calculate the land, here in KZN and Eastern Cape, we have 70% of the agricultural land is here in KZN. But it seems as if the government doesn't take care of the farmers here in KZN.
Donatusi Dlamini, Secretary-General of the KwaZulu-Natal African Farmers Association of South Africa, speaking to us yesterday. 20 minutes now to 9, you're with SAFM, continuing your mediated conversation around stock theft, particularly in KZN. Brigadier Jay Naiker is the spokesperson for the SAPS in KwaZulu-Natal. Brigadier, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Stephen.
So we hear about these cases of stock theft. What are you able to do to help look after people's property in that area?
Okay. First of all, I think you need to you asked the wrong question. The question to the wrong person. I just want to make it clear that is a stock theft unit, and these units are across the country. They have been in existence forever, so it's not something newly established. They work, obviously, they're more an investigative unit. They are a detective unit that works on these stock theft cases. But I think, hearing the previous speaker, what never came out is the proactive measures. Yes, we know there is a market for stolen meat. Definitely, there's even a market for all stolen goods. We've intercepted, even this weekend, our police unit chased a vehicle that was carrying slaughtered animals. And following the chase, I think 3 people were arrested. They recovered the meat. And then also this weekend, we recovered 4 cattle where a police officer noticed this cattle being on a trailer. He's pulled over and he found that the brand markings were not incorrect. They didn't have the proper papers, and subsequently we found that the cattle was stolen in Den Hauser, and they were returned to the owners. But we need to work. Obviously, there's a multidisciplinary approach. We need to work with various departments, like he says, the Shisanyamas that are popping up all over. I think the municipalities also need to take control and look at how they operate, whether they buy their meat from. For example, we intercept a lot of them. But it's getting so bad that the demand for stolen meat that they're now even hijacking trucks carrying meat. So they would hijack a truck, take the truck into a specific location where they were already waiting to distribute this meat, so the meat is then distributed. So that's a general challenge. But saying that, there is pockets of excellence in various parts of the province where the local police, security companies, and communities are working together to prevent stock theft, because the challenge is these stock, some of the stocks are not guarded. You can drive around, you'll find them wandering around the field, and most, eventually they will get into our road. So it's so easy for someone to grab the animals because they're on the roads. These things, and the challenges we have also is that they're not branding their stock, so it becomes a problem when we find them. They're not branded. There is communities out there that are not joining our stock theft forums. And they're late reporting, because sometimes, as I said, animals are left to wander around for weeks, and when it's discovered, it's reported to police, and you may find that they hadn't checked on the animals for days, sometimes even weeks. So it makes our investigation a bit difficult because you're getting the information very late. So I think at the end of the day, whilst we look at the previous financial year, the stock theft cases have come down a little bit, it's still very high. And like I said, with all stolen goods, we need to also look at stopping the market for stolen meat.
And Brigadier, is it possible to know how organized the people are who are doing this? I mean, are these, isolated groups of people, gangs, whatever, who are doing this? Or is there a large syndicate? And if it's a large syndicate and you crack the syndicate, well, maybe you can stop the crime. But it's probably more likely that it's not a large syndicate, that it's sort of different groups of people, almost opportunistic in some ways.
Yeah, they're small groups of people. They're not large syndicates. But obviously it's organized. Like I say, when they steal, just like with your vehicles, there's a market out there. They don't just steal the meat. They've probably already got an order. They know when they steal the animals. They know where they're going to drop them off. As the previous speaker says, they come from the rural areas. They come more to eThekwini, where there's a proliferation of Shisanyamas and other outlets that buys these meats. So, because we do intercept them in those routes late at night when we have roadblocks and so forth.
And investigations, I mean, to try and investigate this is very difficult. Someone might say, my animals have been stolen. You then try and trace where the animal might have gone. But if the animal's been slaughtered and turned into meat, you're probably never going to get the proof that you need to bring in court to prove that this meat belonged to this person when it was still an animal.
Look, we're asking people to brand, because what we find is when they slaughter these animals, they do it very quickly in the south. They actually just chop them up into pieces. And in most cases, the animals, the skin is still on the animal. When we find them, they're still there. And if there's brand markings on the skin, then we were able to trace the owners of the carcasses. So branding is very important, I think, at the end of the day, because we do find that they do it very quickly. So they even transport these carcasses. Like even this weekend, the animal was just chopped into pieces, and this was still on the animal.
Sure. And then, I mean, obviously you want to sort of try and stop this from happening in the first place. Your relationships with farmers, you talk about some people not necessarily reporting crimes for quite a long time. Are you working with farmers? I mean, are you working with their groups, obviously?
Yes. So in the rural areas, there is your Rural Safety Forum where the farmers are represented. You do get some farmers that will attend every meeting. They will be part of every meeting and all efforts to prevent crime. But then you get those ones that will only attend when they become victims of crime. If there's a theft on the farm, for example, then they attend the meeting, and then when things go down, then they stop. So it needs to be that attendance and participation needs to be consistent. Like I said, we want to be proactive. We don't want to talk about reactive issues. We want to be proactive. But I think also our issue is the safeguarding of animals.
Thank you very much indeed, Brigadier Jane Naiker, the spokesperson for the SAPS in KwaZulu-Natal. In a moment, Freddie van Tonders, the head of the KwaZulu-Natal Agricultural Union Security Desk, will find out more from him about this problem of stock theft in KwaZulu-Natal. 13 minutes now to 9.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, we warned earlier that Wednesday is potentially a busy day, particularly around Gauteng. More of the sort of workers back. These are the hybrid workers. Wednesday tends to be an office day, and that work day, if you like. And you can see that just with the volumes. There's backlogging traffic on the N1, Randburg to Four Ways, the N3 up through Alex on towards Buklui, the change for connections onto the N1. That's busy. Sandton through Melrose on the Mike 1 towards Glenhove Road, heading down into Central Joburg's busy. And, of course, you've got the N1 through Midrand, which is still under a bit of pressure down as far as the new road exit. Truck crash and possible crime scene. We understand R21 opposite the airport of Four Trekker Road. Traffic going north backed up heavily in towards that scene, and the Four Trekker off-ramp from the R21 remains closed as well. Durban, a good clear run through Spaghetti Junction. Just at this stage, there's a little gap in the delays that you sort of encounter almost hour by hour on that section, but it's moving okay. I'll tell you where the traffic in Durban is this morning. It's around the Umbilo area. Sydney Road, Umbilo Road, Bayhead Road. A lot of congestion, a lot of truck traffic in that area as well, including Bayhead Road. So just a lot of backlogging. Even the M7 through the Rossborough area down towards sort of the M7 connections. That's very slow, bluff bound as well. So a lot of congestion there. Cape Town this morning, crash on Van Riebeeck Road at Kales River seems to be cleared. That traffic has been released and is moving. And if you've left it until now to come into Cape Town on the M3, there was an earlier crash at Bishop's Court Drive, just slowing traffic from Constantia up and down Wynberg Hill into Newlands. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Youth Month Takeover. SAFM invites young people between the ages of 18 to 35 to take over the airwaves this Youth Month. All you have to do is send a WhatsApp voice note or text message to 061 410 4107 or email info@safm.co.za. Tell us which show you'd like to co-host and what the two compelling issues facing our 30 years of democracy are, and we could be calling you. Terms and conditions apply. You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
What are your thoughts about coalition choices? We said we are open to talk to everybody, including the MK party. And it's very difficult to talk to people there because when you talk to them, they tell you that they are still waiting for Ubaba.
Anyone seen
Ubaba?
Have you seen him? Have you seen him?
And Ubaba gatholakala.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Mediated Conversation on SAFM.
10 minutes to 9. Continue your mediated conversation this morning around stock theft. Freddie van Tonder is the head of the security desk for the KwaZulu-Natal Agricultural Union. Freddie, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
Do you see particular problems in particular areas of KwaZulu-Natal? I mean, are you seeing, for example, maybe goats are stolen here or cows stolen there? Or do you have the same kind of problems across the province?
Just before I start, I also represent the RPO, that's a Red Meat Producers Organisation here in KwaZulu-Natal. To answer your question, yes, stock theft is prevalent in each of our provinces. In certain provinces, it's more prevalent than in others, but we in KwaZulu-Natal do really experience a high number of stock theft cases recently.
Is there more stock theft in KZN than in other places? And each one I know will have its certain dynamics, in the Central Free State area, for example, you will have people coming and stealing a cow and moving off. In KwaZulu-Natal, is it a bit more organized, maybe?
I wouldn't say it's organized. We must just remember that the red meat is a huge demand for red meat. And I think just to confirm what the Brigadier has said, and he's outlined the problems very clearly, is that the modus operandi in different areas differs from each area to the other. But the fact of the matter is they are well-organized syndicates in KwaZulu-Natal, and as I said, that there's a huge demand for red meat, especially for cultural reasons, and we are very dense in the Durban, Mlazi and Komashu area where there's a demand for red meat.
What measures work to try and protect animals? How difficult is it to do?
Well, it's very important, and the Brigadier has outlined that. It's for each livestock owner. Each livestock owner has got his responsibility to guard his livestock, to be proactive. And as you mentioned that, it's very important to brand your animals in accordance with the Branding Act, and as well as to secure their stock and not have their stock graze or get stray in open grazing fields. That's the problem that we have in KwaZulu-Natal, is on convenient grounds, cattle are being left unattended for several days, not counted. And that gives the opportunity for the organized syndicates to then steal the animals.
I would imagine then that what's really required is a lot more supervision, but that requires more people. And I mean, to go and walk with cows, I know many people in this country do that every day, but it's not something everyone wants to do.
No, correct. But if you own animals, surely that it's a lot of money, and they are dependent on their animals as for their livelihood. So it's very important, and we've addressed that during meetings, that the livestock owners must get a herdsboy to secure their animals in an open grazing field. But we find that they do leave the animals open in an open grazing field, and they go astray. If you drive along the road, on a district road, you'll probably find a lot of animals at night just go astray. And that gives, as I said, that gives the opportunity for the well-organized syndicates to steal the animals.
How expensive are these animals when they're stolen? I mean, how much is a cow worth? I mean, I presume we're talking about thousands of rands in many cases.
Oh, yes, definitely. It depends what size animal it is. But I mean, a young a heifer animal goes for 8,000 rand, and a grown-up animal can go up to 20,000 rand. So that's a huge financial loss to the livestock owner.
It's also a huge benefit. I mean, this is where the incentive comes to steal them.
Oh, yes, of course, yes. It's a huge benefit to the syndicates. They make a lot of money. And they will, at one night, if they steal 4 animals, you can imagine how much money they make. And we must remember it's not just all for slaughtering purposes. Some of the animals are incorporated in their own herd, distributed amongst each other, and also used for labor.
And breaking up the sort of economic chain, if they are going to Chisinyamas, how difficult would that be? I mean, do we need to ask Chisinyamas where all of their meat comes from?
Well, it's and the Brigadier has said that, the police are doing their job, and we have got a very good relationship with the SA Police as well as with the stock theft units. But we must also remember that they are not entirely responsible for that. They've got their other work to do, and they also very, in terms of resources, they are. It's not always possible to police these things. But as the Brigadier said, a lot of people are being arrested. They are taken to court. I just want to add one thing. if animals are being found slaughtered, apart from the brand mark, one can also do a DNA test on the slaughtering place and with the meat that was recovered. So that can be done. But it's a lengthy exercise and investigation. And we must also remember that the investigation of stock theft, it's time-consuming and sometimes in very rugged terrain. So it is time-consuming, especially if the police force hasn't got the amount of resources available.
If there were some convictions of people who went to jail for this, it was all very public, do you think that would act as a deterrent, or are people so desperate for money that they'll continue stealing animals and it's sort of so easy that they're going to keep doing it anyway?
Well, yes, there's very good sentences lately. But, you know, and I think the Brigadier mentioned that you'll probably arrest a syndicate, but his runners that's not arrested, they will continue with the operation because they're familiar as to how to deal with these stealing of stock and transporting them.
Freddie van Tonder, thank you very much indeed. Head of the security desk of the KwaZulu-Natal Agricultural Union. You with SFM. It's 4 minutes now to 9 o'clock. We don't normally take calls during this time, but occasionally someone will come in with this particular insight or a story about what we're talking about. We've been talking about stock theft in KwaZulu-Natal. Tsepo, you have a story around stock theft in Northwest, a very different part of the country. Tsepo, good morning. What's happening there?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Go for it.
Here we are fighting a losing battle on air because some of these people are working with the police, and there's very few people who are looking after the cows who are our foreign brothers.
So what
now?
Go on.
What's happening? You see the car being escorted by the blue lamp. One incident happened previously. I called the guy because I know the bike of the guy. I said to him, "Hey, I saw you yesterday being escorted by a blue lamp. What was going on? Because your bike was full of cattle and you don't have cattle." He laughed at me and said to me, "You are kidding. No, those people are escorting us so that we can go spot free to the area where we're taking these cows to, you know."
So they were getting a police escort, basically?
Yes. These guys in that, maybe the guy is under arrest or something of that nature. And at times during the night, when I'm driving during the night, I'll see a bike full of cattle or cows or goats or whatever. And then you'll just see it's normal in front of the police. They will just overtake the car and they won't stop it. Unlike previously, the previous government before our 1994 government. When you drive during the night with cattle or whatever, those guys will stop you, asking you questions, making sure that you call where you get your papers from and all those stuff. But the police of nowadays, they will just pass you. You know, now we are fighting a losing battle dealing with stock theft because police are also a part of this. You know, when you'll see constable driving a very expensive car, the constable that you know that is residing within your area. Yeah. When you look at his salary, you will find that his salary doesn't reach the current living wage, but he's driving expensive cars, living in a big house, you know.
Sure. All right. No, Tsepo, I hear you. Thank you very much indeed. That's the situation in Northwest. Let's just very quickly squeeze in Kunzi from KwaZulu-Natal. And Kunzi, you're a victim of stock theft.
I'm a victim of stock theft, Stephen. You know, there's a unit in Underbeck, in Hamdi, Underbeck. It's called the stock theft unit. Most of those police people, they are crooks. They are, like Tsepo said, they work together with these syndicates to steal our cattle, our livestock. And we are, in fact, we put it right, we are fighting a losing battle. I heard the Brigadier Maker saying all these proactive initiatives to prevent it. But no, man, it doesn't work because these people are ruthless. They are taking our stock and we are fighting a losing battle. And we are in Underbeck next to Lesotho. So sometimes they just take the cows, escort them to over the border in Sunny Pass, and then it's gone. And then as well as they will supply love in Kwamashu, Pietermaritzburg, with all these Shiswanyamas that are mushrooming everywhere.
All right, Kunzi, sorry to cut it there, but I hear you. Thank you. And Kunzi, a victim of stock theft, bringing an end to your mediated conversation this morning. My thanks to Freddie van Tonder, head of the security desk of the KwaZulu-Natal Agricultural Union, Brigadier Jane Naika, spokesperson for the police in KZN, and Donatusi Dlamini, Secretary General of the KwaZulu-Natal African Farmers Association of South Africa. Well, that's it from us. Maybe we'll get a cabinet today from Zelma, Melissa, Mdu, Stanza, myself. Look after yourself. We'll see you tomorrow. Kathy, maybe you'll get the cabinet today.
You're so hopeful, Stephen.
Optimism.
Well, where does it all come from?
Don't know.
Still holding out. Today's what? Wednesday?
It's a whole week.
Our insurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
Top stories for this hour. The MK party to picket outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court. No decision made on Oranje according to the Northern Cape Premier. Good morning, I'm Eva Chipa. The MK party says it will today picket outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court in KwaZulu-Natal. This comes in response to the arrest of the Independent Electoral Commission's area manager in Pietermaritzburg, who is suspected of tampering with ballot papers in the recent national elections.